Somewhere between myth and reality, there are truths too strange to believe and too persistent to ignore. From unmarked tombs in forgotten deserts to devices centuries ahead of their time, the ancient world whispers secrets we're still not ready to understand. These are the puzzles history left behind, untold stories etched in stone, buried beneath oceans, and sealed in coded texts. Step into a world where every answer leads to deeper questions, and nothing is quite what it seems. Deep beneath the barren deserts of Jordan, where only sand and stone were thought to exist, a shocking discovery has shattered everything we thought we knew about ancient history. Hidden beneath layers of prehistoric rock lay a massive secret, a nearly 10-meter-tall statue buried deep underground, completely anonymous, undocumented, leaving no trace, and impossible to date. No one knows who carved it when it was made or for what purpose. It doesn't belong to any known civilization. Now tentatively called the Giant Underground Statue, this monument feels like a fragment from a lost world, or worse, a time period entirely absent from humanity's recorded past. But what puzzles archaeologists and modern scientists even more isn't the statue's size or bizarre appearance. It's the material composition and the absence of time markers elements that seem to defy every tool and theory we currently have. It cannot be classified, it cannot be dated, and it cannot be explained by conventional logic. This statue isn't just a relic, it is a challenge to the entire history of mankind. What do you think this statue really is? Is it a remnant of a forgotten civilization, wiped from history, or simply a structure buried by natural forces and forgotten through time? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you have a theory about the origins of this underground giant? We'd love to hear your perspective. The statue was discovered in 1999 during a geological survey for a planned water pipeline near the southeastern region of Wadi Rum, a famous desert area in Jordan. While drilling, the team unexpectedly struck a massive stone structure located nearly 7 meters beneath the surface. After several weeks of careful excavation, a team of archaeologists was brought in, and what they found shocked everyone. The upper portion of a human-like statue featuring a head, neck, and shoulders carved with astonishing precision and detail, despite signs of erosion over time. There is no record of such a colossal statue in any historical documents from the region, whether from the Nabatean era, Roman times, or the early Islamic dynasties. While Petra, Jordan's iconic rock-cut city, features prominently displayed architecture carved into cliffs, this statue was entirely buried underground, with no surface indication whatsoever. The biggest questions emerged. Why would such a massive sculpture be hidden? Who created it? And for what purpose? From the very first observations, the statue left archaeologists perplexed, as it doesn't resemble any known artistic style ever recorded in the history of the Middle East. It bears none of the classical sculpting traits of Greek art, lacks the realism typical of Roman craftsmanship, and doesn't reflect the graceful ornamental style of the Nabateans, the civilization renowned for their rock-cut monuments in Petra. Instead, the statue's face displays clear asymmetry, uneven eyes, an unusually broad forehead, a straight but disproportionately small nose, and faint, indistinct lips, as if deliberately left uncarved. Its posture is equally puzzling, the right arm raised, the left arm resting across the abdomen, as if concealing something, evoking a sense of ritual or symbolism. Some scholars believe this may not depict an actual human at all, but rather a symbolic being, religious or mythological, tied to a belief system that has yet to be discovered. Among all the strange elements surrounding the giant underground statue in Jordan, it is the material composition that has left scientists the most perplexed and even helpless. The statue is not made from any traditional construction stone, such as limestone granite or sandstone, all commonly used in ancient architecture across the Middle East. Instead, samples taken from various parts of the statue revealed a highly unusual and extremely rare composition, a type of microcrystalline limestone mixed with a high concentration of serendipite, an exceptionally rare gemstone, along with traces of thoriated calcium. Silicate, a compound never before documented in any ancient sculpting or construction techniques. Serendipite is a mineral typically found in tiny amounts within metamorphic rocks in places like Sri Lanka, Myanmar, or Madagascar, and has never been used in large-scale building or carving. The discovery of such a high concentration within the statue raises a profound question. Is this material the result of a rare geological process, or was it deliberately engineered using a formula that has since been lost for millennia? Adding to the mystery, the statue's surface is coated in a strange material that feels smooth, almost like semi-gloss ceramic glaze. Despite being buried for thousands of years, it shows no signs of scratches or flaking. Tests reveal that this coating is resistant to mild acids insoluble in water and capable of withstanding extremely high temperatures, technical properties that far exceed any known material fabrication techniques from the ancient world. This coating alone has led many experts to suspect that the statue is not merely a piece of art, but rather a product of highly advanced material technology entirely beyond the reach of current archaeological understanding. All we know for certain now is that we still know nothing at all. Because the statue contains no organic material, no wood fabric or bone. Radiocarbon dating, C14, is completely ineffective. Some scientists have attempted to date the surrounding sediment layers to estimate when it was buried, but the results have been inconsistent. Some samples suggest the soil formed over 3,000 years ago, while others date to just a few hundred years, possibly due to erosion, ground shifting, or human disturbance. One hypothesis proposes that the statue may have been buried by a major geological event, such as an earthquake or sudden land collapse that rapidly entombed the area. But if so, why are there no written records or local legends referencing such an event? This historical silence only deepens the mystery. Could this statue belong to a time even older than the earliest known human civilizations? As excavation continued, archaeologists uncovered a ring of engraved symbols on the stone base beneath the statue. These markings do not match any known writing systems, not Aramaic, not Phoenician, and not related to Nabatean or Greek alphabets. Some scholars speculate that these may represent a symbolic form of communication or an entirely unknown script from a lost civilization. One spiral symbol bears a strong resemblance to patterns seen on Neolithic pottery in Europe, though this connection remains highly contested. An unofficial report from the initial dig team claimed that as machinery approached the statue's chest area, several members heard a faint, deep humming sound, like a distant vibration or subterranean echo. This was not recorded in seismic data, but multiple witnesses attested to the phenomenon. Was this just a natural underground resonance, or something connected to a hidden structure beneath the statue? A ground-penetrating radar scan has been proposed, but authorization has stalled due to ownership disputes over the site. With so many unanswered questions, no known creator, no clear age, no matching material, and a completely hidden location, some researchers have begun to propose bolder theories. It could be a remnant of a prehistoric civilization, wiped from history, one that possessed stonework technologies far beyond what we currently understand. Or perhaps it was a sacred artifact from a secret religious cult deliberately buried to protect its mystery. Some even compare it to enigmatic sites like Göbekli Tepe, which once forced historians to revise their timelines of human architecture. The giant underground statue in Jordan is not just a strange rock carving. It is a reminder that human history is full of gaps yet to be filled, and that beneath the sands of forgotten places, truths may still be waiting to surface. Until science finds an answer, this statue will continue to challenge our imagination, our knowledge, and our belief in what we think we know about the past. Beneath the dry, dusty soil of central Turkey, hidden in the shadows of time, lies a city unknown to the world for thousands of years. It wasn't built above ground. There were no towers, no stone walls. Instead, it was carved deep into the earth layer by layer, as if the planet itself was revealing an ancient secret. Welcome to the underground city of Cappadocia, a vast hand-carved labyrinth stretching like veins beneath the surface, with dozens of levels, hundreds of rooms, and countless unanswered questions. Among the many subterranean complexes, Derinkuyu stands out as the most astonishing. Accidentally discovered when a wall collapsed during home renovations, it revealed an entire underground metropolis plunging 85 meters deep with 18 levels capable of housing 20,000 people, along with livestock food storage chapels, wine cellars, and a ventilation system so advanced no one fully understands it to this day. Who built it? What tools did they use to carve so deep? And why would an entire civilization hide itself beneath the ground? The answers may just force us to rethink everything we thought we knew about human history. What do you think drove ancient people to create such a massive underground structure? Was it war, persecution, or perhaps a looming threat that history has chosen to forget? And more importantly, how could they possibly build it without modern tools, without light, without blueprints, and yet it never collapsed? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Who knows, your theory might be one that science has yet to consider. What makes Derinkuyu and its sister cities, like Kaymakli Özkonak and Marzi, so astonishing is not merely their existence, but how they were built. These aren't simple caves scratched into the hillside. They include bedrooms, kitchens, stables, wine cellars, communal rooms, churches, classrooms, air shafts that provide fresh ventilation from the surface, rolling stone doors up to 1,000 pounds each to seal off entrances during attack, and most incredibly long tunnels, some stretching for kilometers, connecting different underground cities. It's estimated that Derinkuyu alone could house 20,000 people, along with their food supplies, livestock, and fresh water. That's not just a bunker. That's urban planning on a monumental scale, executed underground, likely thousands of years ago. Cappadocia has seen waves of conquest and religious persecution, and these underground cities were perfect sanctuaries. Narrow passageways meant only one person could enter at a time, giving defenders the advantage. Stone doors could be rolled shut from the inside. Residents could live entirely underground for months, completely cut off from the surface. Wells, ventilation, and even waste management systems show that this wasn't just survival, it was sustainable living. But there's something far more mysterious. Let's pause for a moment and ask the obvious question. How were these massive underground cities built without modern tools, without lighting, and without collapsing? This isn't a minor mystery. This is one of the most profound engineering enigmas of the ancient world. The rock type in Cappadocia, called tuff, formed from compressed volcanic ash, is soft enough to carve, but that also means it's prone to collapse if not carefully reinforced. Yet somehow these ancient builders created multi-story cities complete with ceilings, columns, and weight-bearing structures, all without support beams, concrete, or steel. There are no written records explaining how they achieved this, no blueprints, no inscriptions, no mention in religious texts. All we have is the result of a functioning city that modern archaeologists and engineers admit would be difficult to replicate today without advanced knowledge of geology and structural load. One of the most puzzling questions that continues to haunt archaeologists about Cappadocia's underground city is this: how did ancient people construct such a massive complex, plunging dozens of meters underground, without light, without blueprints, and yet it never collapsed? To this day, there is no clear evidence of oil lamps or torches being widely used in the pitch-dark corridors. So how did they work in near-total darkness? The entire city was carved by hand, likely over generations, yet curiously, no major collapses have ever been recorded. The tunnels were intelligently designed, with gradual slopes to both regulate airflow and prevent flooding, and the vertical ventilation shafts stretching from the surface to the deepest levels were carved with near-perfect alignment. It's as if the entire structure was executed according to the plans of a master architect, even though no such plans have ever been found. So who built this? Historical records only mention the Hittites or early Christians as those who used or expanded the complex, not as the original creators of its foundation. Some fringe theories suggest it may be the legacy of a lost civilization, or perhaps even built using technologies we still don't understand. It might sound far-fetched, but when faced with a structure so flawless for its time, sometimes the most reasonable explanations simply fall short. One of the most mind-blowing aspects is the ventilation network. Derinkuyu contains over 50 ventilation shafts, some stretching the entire depth of the city. These shafts don't just supply air, they regulate temperature and air pressure, providing a livable environment even at the lowest levels. Some shafts are disguised as wells on the surface. This means fresh water and fresh air could be accessed without revealing the location of the city to potential invaders. That level of environmental control underground, without any modern sensors, is staggering. Derinkuyu was not just a shelter, it was a fortress. The rolling stone doors could only be opened from the inside and were placed at key bottlenecks. The passages are so narrow that they force invaders to enter one at a time, putting them at a severe disadvantage. Even staircases are carved at steep angles to make pursuit difficult. And yet, despite these obstacles, the structure remains incredibly intuitive rooms for different functions, communal areas, even spiritual sanctuaries. It speaks of a deeply organized society capable of coordinating large-scale, long-term projects underground with an understanding of engineering principles far ahead of their time. This may be the most frustrating question of all. No tools have ever been recovered from the original construction phase. No chisels, no hammers, no measuring instruments. The walls are smooth. The corridors geometrically aligned. The air shafts are vertical, with minimal deviation. Are we to believe all this was done with primitive iron picks and fire for lighting? And even if it were possible to build such a place with hand tools, why build it at all? Why hide entire cities underground unless something truly existential was being avoided? War, climate catastrophe, a persecution we no longer remember, or something else entirely. The underground cities of Cappadocia aren't just relics, they are anomalies. They defy our assumptions about what ancient humans were capable of. They make us ask whether our ancestors were smarter, better organized, or perhaps more desperate than we ever gave them credit for. In an age where we rely on satellites and AI to plan cities, these people carved an entire civilization into rock without blueprints, computers, or reinforced steel. And they did it in a way we still cannot fully explain. Perhaps that's the greatest mystery of all. Hidden high in the Andean highlands of Peru lies a stone that has defied explanation for decades, not because of its size or grandeur, but because of the enigma carved into its surface. Known as the Sayhuit monolith, this mysterious artifact may appear to be just a weathered block of stone at first glance. But look closer, and you'll see something truly astonishing. A miniature world sculpted in intricate detail, filled with canals, terraces, pools, stairways, and complex hydrological structures, all etched into a single, solid granite boulder. But what does it mean? And perhaps more importantly, what was it used for? That question remains one of the great unresolved mysteries of ancient South America. What do you think could this be? A sacred map of a vanished world? A practical engineering tool for ancient water systems? A spiritual landscape used in forgotten rituals? Or something even more mysterious, something we've yet to imagine? We'd love to hear your theory. Drop your thoughts and wildest guesses in the comments below. The Sayhuit monolith measures about 2 meters in length and is covered with over 200 geometric and organic features. Tiny staircases climb to nowhere. Channels twist and divide like rivers in a delta. Basins pool together while miniature aqueducts feed or drain them. At first glance, it looks like a modeler map perhaps, or a hydraulic playground frozen in stone. But scholars and explorers have spent years trying to determine what it was meant to represent and why it was made. Some see it as a ceremonial object, maybe used in rituals to honor water deities. Others think it might have been a hydraulic laboratory, a scale model to test water flow in larger irrigation systems. Still others go even further, suggesting it could be a symbolic representation of the cosmos, or even a coded message from a lost civilization. And then there's the most compelling theory of all, that the Sayhuit monolith was a sacred map, but not just of physical terrain, a map of spiritual flows, of ancestral knowledge, of a world that no longer exists. What makes Sayhuit so unusual is not just its design, it's the precision of the layout. The channels appear to have been engineered to carry water from one level to another. Some researchers have poured water onto the stone and watched as it trickled through its carved arteries, sometimes flowing naturally, sometimes pooling mysteriously. The conclusion: it might not just be artistic, it might be functional. If so, what kind of function? Some scholars suggest that Sayhuit was used to test irrigation techniques, especially for mountainous terrain like the Andes. Before building massive aqueducts or terraces for agriculture, ancient engineers may have experimented with flow patterns on this very stone. In other words, Sayhuit could be the earliest known 3D hydraulic model in the Americas. But that theory has problems. Some of the channels don't actually work in any logical way. Others connect seemingly at random or appear to defy gravity. That has led others to think the model was never meant to function, at least not in a practical sense. Instead, it might be ritualistic, a stone map to guide the spirits of water through sacred paths. The flow of energy, not just water. Could it be both? A sacred tool that merges spiritual intention with technical knowledge, a convergence of engineering and cosmology, a symbolic map that doesn't represent terrain, but rather divine order. That's the beauty and the frustration of Sayhuit. It refuses to explain itself. One of the reasons the Sayhuit monolith remains so mysterious and remarkable is that no other artifact like it has ever been found, not in Peru nor anywhere else in the world. There is no other stone bearing similar carvings and no known structure that uses such a complex symbolic language. This makes Sayhuit a truly singular phenomenon, nearly impossible to categorize within any known system of ancient culture belief or engineering. Researchers are forced to speculate by comparing it with Inca and pre-Inca traditions, but even those similarities are tenuous at best. What makes the story even more intriguing is that although Sayhuit is located in a region once controlled by the Inca, archaeologists believe the stone may predate the Inca Empire entirely. There are no inscriptions, no identifying symbols, only a network of cryptic grooves and carvings that seem to be conveying a message lost to time. One aspect that has particularly caught the attention of archaeologists is the astonishing level of craftsmanship and precision on the surface of the Sayhuit monolith. It is made of granite, a type of stone, known for its extreme hardness and difficulty to carve, especially using pre-Columbian tools that lack steel or modern technology. And yet the carved channels on the stone are smooth and naturally curved, the water basins are perfectly symmetrical, and the entire layout is executed with remarkable precision and intentionality, as if the artisan had fully visualized the model before carving even the first line. What's even more surprising is that there are no visible chisel marks, cracks, or mistakes anywhere on the surface. The grooves appear soft, and even so much so that some have suggested the stone may have been softened or molded into shape. This detail has sparked a number of controversial theories that the ancient builders possessed a now-lost technology, or that they may have used plant-based acids or solutions to soften the stone. While most mainstream scholars remain cautious about such ideas, there is one point on which nearly everyone agrees: Sayhuit was not made by amateurs. Whatever its purpose was, its creator knew exactly what they were doing. The monolith was discovered in Apurimac, Peru, near a site known as Concacha. This region is rich in archaeological ruins, many of which are attributed to the Inca and their predecessors. But Sayhuite doesn't fit neatly into either category. It stands alone literally and symbolically on a raised platform facing the sky, exposed to the elements like a monument. It feels as though it was meant to be seen, not hidden away in a temple, but displayed, possibly used in open-air ceremonies or teachings. This suggests it might have been a focal point for communal gatherings, a place where water was poured and rituals were performed, not just to worship the element of water, but to understand its flow, its power, and its place in the cosmos. Perhaps the real mystery of the Sayhuit monolith is not what it represents, but how we're trying to interpret it. Modern minds look for utility. We assume maps must represent territory, models must reflect real-world systems, but ancient cultures often blurred the line between the physical and the metaphysical. A stone model might not map a river basin. It might map the spiritual energy of water. A basin might not be for irrigation, it might be a portal to another realm. What if Sayhuit wasn't meant to be solved, but to be experienced, like a sacred riddle in stone, a puzzle that guides thought, not answers questions? There is a door in the real world sealed for centuries that no one dares to open, not because they can't, but because they're afraid. In the heart of Thiruvananthapuram, a city in the Indian state of Kerala, stands an ancient temple where time seems to stand still. The Padmanabhaswamy Temple, a sacred site devoted to the Hindu god Vishnu, is not only a place of worship, it is the guardian of one of the most mysterious doors on the planet. It goes by many names: Vault B, the sealed gate, the door that never opens. But they all refer to the same thing: a massive steel door with no locks, no hinges, and no visible entry mechanism, covered in ancient symbols and sealed by a long-lost mantra. The modern world can map the cosmos, scan the deepest oceans, and decode ancient DNA, but before this door, humanity stands still, because whatever lies behind it could be a treasure beyond imagination or a curse that has slept for 1,000 years. What do you think about this door? Could it be hiding a massive treasure, a sacred space, or something humanity was never meant to touch? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you were standing before this door, would you open it or leave it sealed forever? Among the 6 underground vaults beneath the temple, labeled A through F Chamber B, is unique and not just in architecture or construction. While most of the other vaults have been opened, some even revealing tons of gold and priceless artifacts, Chamber B remains inviolable, its heavy steel door untouched by modern tools or even government authority. The entrance to this vault is unlike any ordinary door. There are no hinges, no bolts, no locks. Instead, it is sealed shut with 2 immense iron panels over which lies a mysterious symbol and a series of intricate carvings said to be sacred protective spells. Locals and temple priests believe that this door is not just locked by man, but protected by divine forces, and that any attempt to force it open could unleash catastrophic consequences. The most captivating legend surrounding Chamber B is that the door is sealed using an ancient and powerful sound-based mantra, the Garuda mantra, associated with the mythical bird mount of Lord Vishnu. It is said that only a truly enlightened sage, a Siddha Purusha, possessing deep yogic powers, could unlock the door by chanting the precise vibrations of this sacred chant. And such a person, as per belief, does not exist in our time anymore. In 2011, the Supreme Court of India ordered an inspection of the temple's vaults, igniting a frenzy among archaeologists, historians, and treasure hunters alike. Vaults A, C, D, E, and F were opened, revealing unimaginable wealth. Piles of gold coins, crowns, necklaces, ceremonial weapons, and rare gems that had been untouched for centuries. But when it came to Vault B, the temple authorities and devotees refused. Not out of secrecy, but out of fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of breaking a spiritual law, fear of awakening a curse older than memory itself. The mystique of Chamber B only deepened after rumors began circulating. Some claimed that during a past attempt to open it, those present experienced strange occurrences, hissing sounds like that of snakes, mysterious vibrations, or sudden illnesses. While none of these claims have been officially verified, the vault remains tightly shut to this day, not by metal or padlock, but by centuries of belief, fear, and reverence. What sets Chamber B apart from mere archaeological puzzles is how deeply it intertwines with spiritual belief systems. Unlike tombs in Egypt or crypts in Europe, this vault is still considered sacred, active, and alive in the religious sense. The Padmanabhaswamy Temple is not a relic, it's a functioning place of worship. Touching Chamber B is akin to defying a god, not just defying history. The priests assert that the door is not meant to be opened, not by humans, not in this era. To them, it is a gateway, not a storage room. It is a space protected by cosmic forces beyond human comprehension. That's why even the idea of using high-tech equipment, X-rays, sonar, or robotic probes has been rejected time and again. And in this age of exploration and digital mapping, the existence of a place that cannot be measured, scanned, or revealed feels almost unreal, like a paradox frozen in time. Vaults A and others, when opened, stunned the world. Estimates place the uncovered treasures at over 22 billion USD, making Padmanabhaswamy the richest temple on Earth. This includes golden idols, antique jewelry, massive gold chains, and sacred ornaments. But the contents of Vault B, which has never been officially opened in recorded history, are believed by many to dwarf all others combined. Speculations run wild. Some believe it holds a vast golden throne meant for Lord Vishnu himself. Others imagine scrolls of forgotten Vedic knowledge, weapons of divine power, or even evidence of ancient civilizations that predate recorded Indian history. The most dramatic estimates suggest the vault's contents could be worth over $1 trillion, a figure that seems less financial and more mythological. But to those who worship at Padmanabhaswamy, its contents are not for the world to see. They belong to the deity. They are not treasure, but divine property. One of the most terrifying aspects of Vault B isn't its physical structure, but rather the serious warnings that have come from temple priests and even some government officials. They believe that if the door were ever forcibly opened, whether through modern technology or mechanical force, it would not only cause a spiritual collapse of the temple itself, but could also trigger a disaster across the entire region. Ancient manuscripts and generations of oral tradition speak of a curse guarding this sacred space, an invisible boundary that human beings are simply not meant to cross. While modern science may dismiss the idea of a curse in the context of cultural belief and spiritual tradition, the fear is very real, deep, powerful, and rooted in collective memory. Numerous legal efforts to authorize the opening of the vault have been halted, embroiled in lawsuits, or quietly abandoned. Even when the Supreme Court of India once ordered a full inventory of the temple's assets, Vault B was excluded due to fierce religious opposition. And so the question still lingers in the minds of many: is this merely a case of religious conservatism, or is there truly a supernatural force being protected behind that sealed door? Chamber B is not just a locked door. It has become a symbol of the limits of human reach. In a world where satellites can map Mars and submarines reach the Mariana Trench, here lies a door on Earth that we refuse to open. Not because we cannot, but because we believe we should not. It is a paradox. The more technology advances, the more this ancient door resists the modern world. And in doing so, it forces us to ask questions deeper than what's inside. It forces us to ask, should every secret be uncovered? Can sacredness override curiosity? And is there a point where science must stop and mystery be left alone? Chamber B, whether myth or miracle, remains the last unopened vault of humanity's soul, untouched by tools, unclaimed by greed, and unbroken by time. Hidden beneath layers of stone and symbolism, in one of the greatest ancient cities of the Americas, lies a secret that even time has dared not disturb. Teotihuacan, the city of the gods, has long captivated archaeologists with its towering pyramids, sacred avenues, and the anonymous hands that built them. But within its labyrinth of history, one discovery has shaken every theory to its core: a submerged tomb chamber, buried, sealed shut, and utterly devoid of any human remains. This is not merely a forgotten tomb. It could be a gateway, a ritual of transformation, a deliberate emptiness. And the greatest mystery may not be what we found, but what was never there at all. What do you think about a tomb with no body? Could it be a mistake, an unsolved mystery, or a deliberate message from the ancients that absence itself is the ultimate power? Share your thoughts or theories in the comments below. Every idea might reveal a new perspective on this enigma. This subterranean chamber, hidden under layers of earth and stone, was first hinted at in 2003 when heavy rainfall revealed a sinkhole near the base of the temple. What seemed like a minor geological event turned into one of the most extraordinary discoveries in Mesoamerican archaeology. As archaeologists descended into the depths beneath the ancient structure, they uncovered a long tunnel, meticulously carved and sealed nearly 1,800 years ago. The tunnel, stretching over 100 meters, led to a large chamber located approximately 15-18 meters below the temple. But what made this space truly remarkable was its state of deliberate flooding. The chamber was submerged in water, and the space itself appeared less like a burial room and more like an artificial cave, a simulated entrance to the underworld mirroring the mythologies held by the ancient Teotihuacanos. Inside, archaeologists found what could only be described as an awe-inspiring ceremonial space. The walls and ceilings glistened with pyrite, a golden mineral known as fool's gold, embedded intentionally to reflect light from torches or offerings. Scattered across the floor were hundreds of mysterious golden orbs made from clay and coated in a yellow, metallic finish, many speculating that they symbolized celestial body souls or spiritual entities. It was clear this was no ordinary chamber. But then came the twist: no human remains were found. Despite years of careful excavation, despite the clear signs of ritual activity, and despite the chamber's layout aligning with burial structures found in other Mesoamerican sites, there was no body, no sarcophagus, no bones, no offerings directly linked to a deceased individual. This absence sent shockwaves through the archaeological community. How could a space so elaborate, so sacred, so intentionally sealed for over a millennium be completely empty of human remains? This mystery has led to one of the most compelling and contested questions in pre-Columbian archaeology. Was this even a tomb at all? Traditionally, the term tomb chamber implies the resting place of an important figure, a king, a priest, a ruler. And that was the initial assumption for this chamber, that it held the remains of a powerful individual from Teotihuacan's peak period, around 100–250 CE. The architecture, the richness of the space, and its symbolic connections to life, death, and the underworld seemed to fit that narrative. But with no body found, researchers began to consider alternative explanations. Some believe this was a symbolic tomb, a space meant not to house a body, but to serve as a kind of spiritual gateway. In this interpretation, the chamber acted as a ritual replica of the underworld, where high priests or initiates would perform rites to communicate with the divine, the dead, or even celestial entities. The flooding, the reflective minerals, the golden spheres, all elements combined to create a setting that was not meant for the dead, but for transcending the boundary between life and death. In fact, the lack of remains may not be an oversight. It may have been intentional. The chamber might have represented a cosmic womb or a rebirth portal designed to simulate death without hosting an actual corpse. The Teotihuacanos were deeply spiritual, and their cosmology centered around cycles of life, death, and regeneration. Could it be that this chamber was never meant to hold a body, but rather to guide souls, invoke deities, or balance cosmic forces? Others take the mystery even further. Some fringe theories, while not accepted by mainstream scholars, propose the possibility of ritual disappearance, that the body, if once there was, intentionally removed or hidden elsewhere as part of a complex spiritual doctrine. Or in more speculative circles, that the entire chamber was designed as a message to the gods, a symbolic structure built in absence precisely because emptiness held spiritual power. Then there are those who suggest that perhaps the true occupant of the tomb was not human at all. Given Teotihuacan's obsession with celestial bodies and its alignment with astronomical features, some theorists argue that the chamber was created not for a king or priest, but for a god, specifically a representation of a deity like Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, or perhaps a forgotten god of the underworld. In this case, the absence of remains becomes an affirmation. The divine cannot be buried in the human sense. Instead, the chamber serves as a home for the divine presence, a spiritual epicenter, rather than a crypt. Adding to this theory is the sheer theatricality of the chamber's design. Its descent through a narrow tunnel, its flooding with sacred water, the gleaming pyrite walls, and the golden spheres, all of it seems constructed for effect, as if to induce awe, alter consciousness, and transport participants into a state of otherworldly communion. This notion ties into broader Mesoamerican concepts of sacred caves and watery underworlds. For many pre-Columbian civilizations, caves symbolized entrances to the world below, and water represented the primordial chaos from which all things were born. In this light, the submerged tomb chamber becomes less of a mystery and more of a mythological stage, where the boundary between physical and spiritual worlds thinned and where rituals could rewrite the laws of mortality. Still, the lack of remains haunts the chamber's interpretation. It defies expectations. It challenges conventional archaeology. It forces us to ask whether our definitions of tomb of death of presence are too narrow when applied to ancient belief systems vastly different from our own. The people of Teotihuacan may have understood life and death not as opposites, but as two sides of the same cosmic movement. And in such a worldview, perhaps the most powerful tomb is the one that holds nothing. Perhaps the absence is the message. Today, the chamber remains sealed off from the public, protected both for its fragility and its mystery. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed even deeper anomalies below the chamber, hinting that there may yet be more hidden beneath the ancient city. Some believe that the true body, whatever or whoever it was, might lie even further down, still untouched. Others think the chamber was the end of the line, a spiritual destination, rather than a physical one. But regardless of what future excavations may reveal, one thing is certain: the submerged tomb chamber of Teotihuacan defies simple explanation. Whether it was a tomb, a temple, a portal, or a monument to absence, it challenges our assumptions about what ancient people believed, how they honored the divine, and how they understood the journey between life and death. And in that silence, in that void, where a body should be, lies perhaps the most profound message of all. Hidden deep beneath the sacred stones of the Temple of Abydos, amid the scorching sands of the Egyptian desert, lies a massive door that no one knows where it leads. No stairs, no passage, just a giant slab of red granite, weighing tens of tons, lying motionless at the heart of one of the oldest temples on Earth. Who placed it there, and why? Among the thousands of magnificent structures from ancient Egypt, there is one that is rarely mentioned, yet it has captivated both archaeologists and mystics alike: the mysterious trapdoor beneath the Osirian, the sacred subterranean temple of Abydos. There are no inscriptions, no official archaeological explanations, and yet what we do know is this: the structure defies everything we thought we understood about ancient engineering. Its size, its material, its precision. This isn't just a stone. It's a challenge left by an ancient civilization for the modern world to unravel. And to this day, no one can say for sure what lies beneath that door. What do you think is hidden beneath this giant trapdoor? A forgotten entrance to an underground world, an ancient royal rebirth ritual, or evidence of a technology far ahead of its time? Share your thoughts or theories in the comments below. You might be the one to open a whole new perspective on this mystery. Right at the center of the Osirion, a mysterious underground temple. Behind the temple of Seti the Wainsis in Abydos lies a strange structure that continues to stir debate among archaeologists: a sharply cut, symmetrical rectangular pit lined with red granite, an extremely hard material that is notoriously difficult to quarry and transport. The most astonishing feature is the massive lid stone placed on top a single granite slab over 3 meters wide and weighing tens of tons, set with such precision it seems almost impossible. There are no stairs, no entrances, no decorations, and no inscriptions. It resembles a giant sealed trapdoor, and to this day, no one has been able to confirm whether it hides a water well, a burial chamber, or a secret passage leading into an undiscovered underground space. Lying at the heart of the Osirian, an enigmatic underground structure in Abydos, is a colossal slab of red granite over 3 meters wide and estimated to weigh more than 40 tons, placed so precisely over a rectangular pit that it appears to have been dropped into place with laser-like accuracy. What astonishes scientists is not only its sheer size, but the material itself. Red granite, one of the hardest stones ever used by humans, second only to diamond on some hardness scales. Shaping, cutting, and transporting this type of stone remains a challenge even with today's technology, let alone during the Bronze Age over 3,000 years ago. The nearest known granite quarry is in Aswan, nearly 200 kilometers away, across harsh desert terrain. How could the ancient Egyptians transport such a massive block over that distance without modern wheels, trucks, cranes, or pulleys? And more puzzlingly, how did they position it with such precision, using only ropes, wooden rollers, and copper tools? No explanation has ever been truly satisfying. And that's precisely what makes this granite slab such a profound mystery, one that challenges our entire understanding of ancient engineering. Unlike most ancient Egyptian temples, where every wall and column is covered in hieroglyphs, ceremonial artwork, and sacred symbols, the mysterious structure beneath the Osirian is completely bare. There are no inscriptions, no mention of any pharaoh, no traces of rituals or recorded prayers. It is simply a silent, deep subterranean space, as if it was never meant to be seen by human eyes. Some theories suggest it might be an unfinished part of a larger complex. But if that's the case, why was it built with such precision and using such costly materials? Why seal it with a red granite slab weighing tens of tons just to cover a pointless hole? And why place it right at the center of the Osirian, a site the ancient Egyptians believed was a gateway to the afterlife? If this was truly a sacred passage, why leave no instructions, no markings, no signs? And if it wasn't meant for the public, then who was ever meant to open it? Some spiritual scholars and symbolists believe that the giant door beneath the Osirian is not merely a physical entrance, but a sacred symbol representing the soul's journey across the boundary between life and death. In ancient Egyptian belief, death was not the end, but a transitional state, and nearly all rituals were centered on rebirth in the afterlife. From this perspective, the massive granite slab may be seen as an eternal barrier separating the mortal world from the underworld, while the deep pit beneath could symbolize the cosmic womb, a place into which the soul must descend before being reborn. Its unique position, right at the heart of the Osirian, a temple closely associated with Osiris, the god of resurrection, further strengthens the theory that this could have been the starting point of a secret royal rebirth ritual, accessible only to pharaohs or high-ranking priests. Here, they may have performed meditative rites, offerings, or spiritual transformations to reconnect with divine power. But if such a ritual truly existed, why is there no inscription, symbol, or textual record of it? The ancient Egyptians were famous for meticulously documenting every ceremony, from temple rites to funerary preparations for the journey beyond death. And yet here, with such a grand and mysterious structure, the total absence of writing or imagery becomes the greatest mystery of all. Could it be that this ritual was so sacred it was deliberately kept hidden, not for public knowledge, perhaps even withheld from scribes themselves? Or was this a symbol so profound and universal that it needed no explanation, understood only by those who were chosen? Several archaeological teams have attempted to open the stone lid and explore beneath, but most of them either never published results or abandoned the mission midway, citing technical difficulties or unsafe conditions. Some claimed they encountered toxic gases, while others reported magnetic anomalies near the edge of the pit. Of course, these accounts lack verifiable evidence, but they only deepen the mystery and public intrigue. An interesting theory suggests that beneath the door lies an entire hidden chamber system, possibly leading to tombs or tunnels we have never discovered. Yet due to the position and massive weight of the granite slab, accessing it is nearly impossible without risking damage to the entire Osirian structure, something modern archaeologists are unwilling to attempt. The strangest part of the giant trapdoor beneath the Temple of Abydos isn't where it leads, but the fact that it exists at all. Who placed it there? Why, how? And more importantly, why has no one ever written about it? For a civilization famous for documenting every religious ceremonial and royal act, the absence of any mention of such a monumental structure is deeply unnatural. And if there truly is something beneath that slab, it has been intentionally hidden for thousands of years, using techniques far ahead of their time, with materials that challenge modern machines and cloaked in purposeful silence. In the vast, wind-swept expanse of the Sahara Desert, where scorching sands and icy winds have buried countless traces of time, something ancient still whispers in silence. Not pyramids, not stone statues, not fossilized bones, but spirals carved deep into rock, simple, repetitive, yet haunting. On the Tassili Najjer Plateau in Algeria, one of the largest open-air prehistoric art museums in the world, archaeologists have discovered strange carvings, ancient spirals unlike any other symbols found in African rock art. No human figures, no animals, no hunting scenes. Just silent spirals turning inward, like they're trying to tell a story. One we've never truly understood. They're not decoration, not random. They had a purpose. But what purpose? That is the mystery that has puzzled scholars for decades, and it marks the beginning of a journey to uncover the meaning behind some of the oldest spiral symbols on the African continent. What do you think these mysterious spirals meant? Were they sacred symbols, a long-lost form of language, or simply decorative patterns? Drop your theories in the comments below. Your perspective might just be the missing piece in this ancient puzzle. Unlike most prehistoric rock art in Africa, which typically depicts humans, animals, or hunting scenes, the spiral carvings in Algeria are entirely abstract. They don't suggest any specific action, nor can they be linked to any known creature or ritual. Because of this, they not only spark curiosity, but have also puzzled archaeologists and anthropologists for decades. These spirals don't tell a story like other carvings do. Instead, they seem to conceal a deeper layer of meaning, one that we have yet to decipher. What makes the spiral rock carvings in Algeria especially captivating and controversial is the simple fact that no one knows why they were created. Unlike many other forms of prehistoric rock art that appear in clear contexts such as hunting scenes, tribal ceremonies, or depictions of humans and animals, these spirals appear in isolation, disconnected from any easily recognizable subject. They are just repeated circular patterns carved deeply and deliberately into stone, yet they leave no clear explanation behind. Over the decades, numerous theories have emerged. Some suggest they symbolize the sun, representing cycles of life and death. Others link them to astronomical phenomena like star paths or atmospheric vortices. Some scholars interpret them as spiritual symbols, perhaps a soul's journey or portals to another world, while others think they might be remnants of long-lost ritual practices. However, none of these theories have been definitively proven. Every explanation remains speculative, uncertain, unverified, and open-ended. One of the strangest things about the spiral carvings in Algeria is that they are not a unique phenomenon. Similar symbols have been found at sites thousands of kilometers apart, belonging to entirely different cultures with no known connections, such as Newgrange in Ireland, a massive megalithic structure over 5,000 years old. Nazca in Peru, home to gigantic and mysterious desert geoglyphs. And Easter Island, famed for its enigmatic Moai statues. Despite being separated by vast distances and cultural differences, all of these places feature one common element: the spiral. This raises a fascinating question. Could ancient humans around the world have shared some kind of innate geometric intuition, a symbolic form that didn't arise from tradition or cultural exchange, but from within a reflection of the collective unconscious, or of how early people instinctively perceived the order of the universe? Some modern researchers have proposed a more practical counter-theory. What if these spirals were made simply because they were easy to carve, with a repetitive and simple structure, requiring no advanced geometry or technical skill? Spirals might have just been a convenient choice for marking or decorating hard rock surfaces. But if it were really that simple, why were they carved with such extraordinary precision, often located in hard-to-reach places on steep, elevated, or isolated rock faces? Why is there such consistent repetition in spacing and proportions, as if the ancient carvers were following some invisible geometric rule? It is precisely this lack of clear purpose, this absence of any specific context, that turns these spirals into a kind of open symbol. Everyone who looks at them sees something different. Some perceive a sacred meaning, others see maps or directional signs, while some even interpret them through philosophical lenses or ancient alien theories. What makes the spiral carvings in Algeria truly remarkable lies in three key factors, each of which emphasizes that these are not ordinary symbols. First, they are extremely rare in African rock art, especially in the Sahara region. While spiral motifs are relatively common in Neolithic European carvings, in Africa, where most prehistoric rock art focuses on human figures, animals, and hunting scenes, spirals are almost entirely absent. Second, their age is extraordinarily ancient, potentially dating back as far as 8,000 years, which means they were created thousands of years before the Egyptian pyramids. Finally, they are not random or careless markings. The spirals are carved with high precision and rhythmic consistency, suggesting that they may have been part of a system of thought ritual or symbolic code one for which modern humans have long lost the key to understanding. One of the most intriguing and bold theories surrounding the ancient spirals in Algeria comes from the fields of psychology and anthropology. Could these carvings be remnants of a deep collective memory shared by humanity? The psychologist Carl Jung once proposed that certain symbols, like circles, the tree of life, and spirals, appear independently across cultures because they arise from a shared collective unconscious that transcends time and geography. From this perspective, the spiral is not just a random geometric form, but an ancient symbolic language tied to our primal understanding of the universe, life, death, and time. Some researchers go even further, suggesting that these spirals may be remnants of a forgotten civilization where abstract carvings served as a kind of encoded information, similar to how modern humans store data digitally. Far-fetched, perhaps. But it's worth remembering there was a time when people believed Egyptian hieroglyphs were merely decorative pictures, until the Rosetta Stone was discovered and unlocked an entire system of meaning that had been lost for millennia. The spiral carvings in Algeria are not mere decorative patterns. They feel like a silent pause woven between the storytelling images of prehistoric humanity. Unlike drawings that depict events, actions, rituals, or emotions, these spirals say nothing at all. They simply repeat, rhythmic, abstract, and silent. And it is this quiet presence that prompts us modern observers to ask, were there once layers of meaning, memory, or understanding that existed but have now vanished entirely from our collective consciousness? And if so, do we still have the capacity to recover them, or are we forever destined to watch these spirals turn in the silence of the past? If you stood before those spirals amid the desert winds and ancient stone, what would you feel? A message from the past? A portal to forgotten knowledge? Or simply a question that's never been answered? Just like the spirals themselves, silent for thousands of years. The answer, like the spirals, draws us deeper into the center of the unknown. There exists a ring, small, silent, made of nothing more than metal. And yet some claim it holds the key to forgotten civilizations, protective forces, and even a form of sacred energy geometry lost to time. This is the story of the Atlantean Ring, a mysterious object that has captured the imaginations of mystics, scientists, and skeptics alike. But what do you think? Could a simple ring truly hold the secrets of an ancient lost civilization? Do you believe in sacred energy geometry, or is this just another beautiful myth wrapped in mystery? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear whether you think the Atlantean Ring is a powerful relic or just an intriguing legend. In the 1860s, French Egyptologist Marquis de Grain claimed to have unearthed a strange ring inside the tomb of a high-ranking priest in the Valley of the Kings. Later famed archaeologist Howard Carter, the man who opened the tomb of Tutankhamun, was said to have worn this ring constantly as a protective talisman. But here's where things get strange. The ring doesn't look Egyptian. It doesn't match any known artifact style. Its design is unlike anything from ancient Africa, Greece, or Mesopotamia. So where did it come from? Some believe the answer lies far deeper in history, perhaps even in Atlantis, the legendary sunken civilization described by Plato. What makes the Atlantean Ring truly special isn't its legend or mysterious origin, but rather its strange geometric design, meticulously engraved on its surface. Unlike any known cultural symbol in human history, the patterns on this ring consist of two symmetrical isosceles triangles, two inward-pointing trapezoids, and 6 wave-like lines running along the band, forming a structure of near-perfect symmetry and balance. Those who believe in the ring's power claim these are not mere decorative motifs. Each shape is thought to carry its own energetic meaning, and when combined in precise order, they are said to generate a subtle energy field, a kind of energy code, encoded through geometry capable of influencing the bioelectromagnetic field of the wearer. Practitioners of Reiki Qigong and energy work compare the ring to a geometric tuning fork said to help harmonize the body's internal frequencies with the natural vibration of the earth. They don't call it magic, they call it sacred mathematics. If this is true, then the ring is not just an ancient artifact, but a tool designed according to ancient principles that modern humanity has yet to fully understand. While most ancient rings bear images of deities, royal emblems, or family crests, the Atlantean ring stands completely apart. It has no inscriptions, no religious symbols, no recognizable imagery, only straight lines, triangles, trapezoids, and wave-like patterns. Though simple in appearance, esoteric scholars believe this design is no accident, but rather a coded system of ancient knowledge expressed through geometry. In sacred geometry, the triangle represents harmony, strength, and spiritual insight. When pointing upward, it symbolizes fire and masculine energy. When inverted, it signifies water and feminine energy. The symmetrical pairing of these triangles is seen as a symbol of the unification of opposites, a state of ultimate balance. The 6 wave patterns are thought to represent energy in motion, possibly linked to vibrational frequencies or internal life force, qi. The trapezoid, a rare shape in ancient jewelry, is interpreted as an energy gate or anchoring point, helping to stabilize and regulate the overall structure of the design. Together, these elements form a closed circuit, a system, perhaps even an ancient energy device. The Atlantean ring is not just a strange piece of ancient jewelry. Many believe it to be a genuine tool for energy regulation. Those who have worn the ring often describe a feeling of profound calm, as if their minds were naturally soothed. Some say that during meditation, they feel their inner frequency align with something greater, like the Earth's own rhythm. Others report becoming more intuitively sensitive, able to sense unusual situations or make clear decisions in a heightened state of awareness. Within the energy healing community, the Atlantean ring is often compared to a geometric resonance device said to stabilize and protect the human bioenergetic field from negative external influences. The story of archaeologist Howard Carter, who survived the so-called Pharaoh's curse, is frequently cited as compelling evidence. He was known to wear the ring at all times, and some believe it may have created an invisible field of energetic protection that modern science has yet to fully explain. Although it was discovered in Egypt, the Atlantean ring bears no trace of ancient Egyptian civilization. It contains no depictions of deities, no hieroglyphs, and no resemblance to any known symbolic system. Because of this, since the 20th century, several esoteric scholars, such as André de Belizal and René Louis Valentin, have proposed that the ring does not belong to Egypt at all, but is in fact a surviving relic of Atlantis, a prehistoric civilization believed to possess advanced knowledge of geometry, vibrational frequencies, and energy manipulation. According to their theory, the symbols on the ring are not meant to be read like language, but to be activated as if the ring were a coded device of ancient knowledge waiting to be unlocked by the right state of consciousness. If that's true, then this ring isn't merely jewelry. It could be one of the last surviving artifacts of ancient technological wisdom. Today, replicas of the Atlantean ring are sold widely across the globe, especially popular within communities practicing energy healing, chakra balancing, meditation, and other esoteric disciplines. For these individuals, the ring is more than just jewelry. It's a subtle tool used to regulate vibrational frequency and protect the personal energy field. However, mainstream science remains cautious. There is no concrete evidence that the ring emits electromagnetic fields or produces genuine healing effects. It is generally regarded as a placebo. Yet even placebos, as science has shown, can have significant biological impacts. When belief is strong enough, it can trigger neurological responses, generating a real sense of calm focus and emotional restoration. So the question remains, does the ring truly emit energy, or is human belief itself the most mysterious source of power? In the end, the Atlantean ring may not just be a ring. It may be a symbol of something we've forgotten, that shapes and patterns once meant something deeper. That geometry may have been our first language, and that long before we wrote stories, we drew lines in the sand that told truths the world no longer remembers. Long before the Egyptian pyramids, long before the first Chinese dynasty, there was a great civilization, a place where humans first dared to record their thoughts in writing, a place where the first true cities rose from dust, a place where law, astronomy, mathematics, and mythology were born, shaped by the hands of people who lived more than 5,000 years ago. It wasn't a legend, it was real. Its name was Sumer. Located in Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, Sumer was the first civilization in human history to leave behind written records. They built complex cities, raised towering ziggurats that reached toward the heavens, and invented writing to preserve their entire world. And then, as if someone erased them from history, they vanished, suddenly, without a farewell. No great final battle, no last recorded collapse, only silent clay tablets buried for millennia beneath the earth. How could such a pioneering civilization, the foundation of all societies that followed, simply disappear without anyone noticing? This isn't just an archaeological question. It's one of the greatest mysteries in human history. What about you? What do you think really happened to the Sumerians? Were they wiped out by war? Or was it drought, disease, or some unrecorded catastrophe? Or maybe they never truly disappeared at all? Drop your theory in the comments below. Every perspective matters. Who knows, maybe you hold the missing piece to a 5,000-year-old mystery. Over 5,000 years ago, around 3200 BCE, while most of humanity still lived as nomads or practiced rudimentary farming, the Sumerians made one of the greatest breakthroughs in human history: writing. They invented the cuneiform system, a series of wedge-shaped symbols pressed into clay tablets using styluses. Initially, it served as a simple tool to record trade transactions and offerings to temples. However, from this practical beginning, Sumerian writing quickly evolved into a fully developed written language capable of recording laws, astronomy, mythology, and literature. One of the most important surviving works is the Epic of Gilgamesh, a powerful story about a king's quest for immortality, reflecting the deep philosophical and spiritual thinking of the Sumerians. The invention of writing wasn't just a technological innovation, it was the dividing line between prehistory and history, marking the dawn of an era in which humans could preserve knowledge, pass down ideas, and build civilization through written records. Unlike the centralized empires that emerged later, Sumer existed as a network of independent city-states such as Uruk-Lagash and Nippur. Each city-state was a miniature world of its own, with its own king, patron, deity, army, and legal system. There was no single central authority. Rather, these cities coexisted in a loosely connected web of rivalry and cooperation. This represented an early, yet remarkably advanced form of political organization, allowing for experimentation with different models of governance. Sumerian society was clearly stratified, ranging from nobles and priests to commoners and slaves. Most notably, the Ur-Nammu law code, written around 2100 BCE, is the oldest known legal text ever discovered, demonstrating a clear awareness of order, justice, and state authority at the very dawn of civilization. The Sumerians were not only the first to invent writing, they were also among the earliest mathematicians and astronomers. They developed a base 60 number system, which became the foundation for how we divide time, 60 seconds, 60 minutes, and geometry, 360 degrees in a circle today. They could measure land area, calculate volume, and construct calendars based on lunar cycles, creating a 12-month lunar year. By observing the skies, they were able to predict solar eclipses, track seasonal changes, and model celestial movements. These achievements were not only crucial for agriculture, but also laid the groundwork for Babylonian science, ancient Greek astronomy, and even aspects of modern scientific understanding. Among the great structures left behind by the Sumerians The ziggurat stands out as the clearest symbol of both religious devotion and political authority. These were multi-tiered temple towers made of baked bricks, rising dozens of meters high at the heart of each city. Every ziggurat was dedicated to a specific patron deity whom the Sumerians believed dwelled at the top of the tower. The ziggurat of Ur is a prime example, not only a religious center, but also a ceremonial and administrative hub for the entire city-state. The construction of such massive monuments reflects their remarkable organizational abilities, architectural skill, and above all, the desire to bridge heaven and earth, a place where humans sought to reach the divine with their own hands. What makes the Sumerian civilization one of the most haunting and mysterious in human history is not just what they built, but how they disappeared. Around 2000 BCE, while their cities were still active, clay tablets were still being inscribed, and ziggurats still towered over the Mesopotamian plains, everything suddenly stopped. No more buildings were constructed. No records described a collapse. No signs warned of impending doom. It's as if one day an entire civilization quietly chose to withdraw from history. Archaeologists and historians have proposed various theories to explain this strange vanishing. One common idea is foreign invasion. Amorite tribes from the west and the Elamites from the east swept in, overtaking Sumerian city-states, replacing their rulers and imposing new systems. But if invasion alone were the cause, why didn't the Sumerians leave behind laments, desperate poetry, or inscriptions marking their downfall? Many civilizations have survived conquest while maintaining their cultural voice. Another theory involves climate change. Geological evidence suggests a long period of drought may have destroyed irrigation systems, salinized farmland due to falling groundwater levels, and forced people to abandon once thriving lands. But if the climate was truly the main cause, how could a civilization so experienced in flood control be helpless against drought? Might there have been something even more catastrophic that remains undiscovered? Some scholars suggest internal conflict, escalating rivalries among city-states, rising social inequality, and a collapse of faith in leadership may have led Sumerian society to crumble from within. Yet archaeological excavations have revealed no clear evidence of widespread war or civil upheaval. The final and most widely supported theory today is that the Sumerians didn't truly vanish, but were absorbed into successor cultures, especially Akkadian and Babylonian. Their gods, writing systems, mythology, and legal thinking continued to live on. But the name Sumer gradually faded and was forgotten. Whatever the reason, the fact remains: there is no final inscription, no royal declaration of defeat, no last words from a dying dynasty. A civilization that pioneered written history left behind no written record of its own end. And perhaps that is what makes Sumer one of the quietest, most unsettling, and most enduring mysteries in all of human history. Today, most of what we know about the Sumerians comes from over 500,000 clay tablets unearthed in Mesopotamia, many of which still remain undeciphered. For centuries, Sumer was thought to be a legend, until the discovery of cuneiform in the 19th century brought an entire lost civilization back to life. And yet the strange paradox is this: the very people who invented writing, the first to record human history, left no explanation for their own disappearance. No records of famine, no descriptions of a final war, no last words from a dying king. It's as if one day they simply stopped writing, stopped building, and vanished. The Sumerians were the ones who began human history, who taught us to record, build, organize, worship, and measure the world. Yet instead of ending with a dramatic collapse, they quietly withdrew from the stage of history. And perhaps It is this very silence that makes them more legendary than ever. When people speak of ancient civilizations, our minds instinctively jump to Egypt's towering pyramids, Mesopotamia's ziggurats, or the lost cities of the Indus Valley. But what if I told you that one of the most ancient and enduring civilizations on Earth didn't rise in the Middle East or Europe, but in Japan? Hidden beneath the quiet forests and misty coastlines of prehistoric Japan was a culture so old, so persistent, and so deeply artistic it would outlast empires, rewrite timelines, and challenge everything we thought we knew about early humanity. It's called the Jomon civilization, and it quietly flourished for over 10,000 years. Not with armies or monuments, but with fire earth and cord-marked pottery that still speaks today of a people who mastered the art of living in harmony with the land long before the first plow ever touched the soil. What do you think? Does it surprise you that Japan once hosted a civilization that thrived for over 10,000 years without agriculture kings or war? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Would you consider Jomon one of the great civilizations of the ancient world, even if they never built pyramids? Let that sink in. More than 10 millennia. From as early as 14,000 BCE until around 300 BCE, the people of Jomon, Japan, lived, crafted, hunted, worshipped, and built a way of life that would quietly outlast the Egyptian pyramids, the Mayan temples, and even the emergence of agriculture in much of the rest of the world. Most civilizations rise and fall in a few centuries, but Jomon culture endured across 100 centuries, changing gradually yet remarkably stable in its continuity. This long stretch of time was not marked by grand empires or monumental architecture. Instead, the Jomon people left behind something arguably more precious: evidence of a deep connection between humans and the natural world, preserved in thousands of intricately designed clay pots, figurines, and settlement remains. What makes the Jomon so extraordinary is not just their age, but the fact that they achieved such rich cultural expression without agriculture, metal tools, or centralized states. Unlike many other prehistoric societies, the Jomon weren't nomadic wanderers. Despite relying primarily on hunting, gathering, and fishing, they built permanent settlements, some with over 500 pit dwellings. They took advantage of Japan's rich ecosystems, coastal waters teeming with fish forests full of game, and rivers abundant with freshwater shellfish. This abundance allowed them to establish sedentary lifestyles without domesticating crops or animals, making them one of the earliest examples of a non-agricultural yet settled society. Over the millennia, their pottery evolved from simple utilitarian vessels to stunning works of art with dramatic flared rims, elaborate patterns, and mystical symbols. Some of these pots date back to 14,000 BCE, making them the oldest known pottery in the world. But it wasn't just functional wear. These objects reveal a society that deeply valued aesthetic expression and symbolic meaning. Among their most enigmatic creations are the doge figurines, clay idols with exaggerated features, oversized eyes, and surreal postures. These are often interpreted as fertility symbols, spiritual icons, or ritual objects. Their very existence hints at a culture rich in symbolism, ritual, and spiritual imagination, far more advanced in mindset than most would expect from a society without writing or cities. Through these artifacts, we glimpse a world that was spiritually rich and culturally complex despite lacking the trappings of advanced civilization. Archaeological sites such as Sannai Maruyama in Aomori Prefecture provide tangible evidence of this complexity. Large-scale dwellings, ritual spaces, storage pits, even hints of long-distance trade in jade and obsidian. This was no primitive tribe. It was a long-lived culture with deep-rooted social practices. But it is the incredible time span of Jomon life that truly challenges our understanding of civilization. In a world where most societies rise quickly and collapse in chaos, how did a non-agricultural culture last over 10,000 years? The answer may lie in their sustainable relationship with nature. The Jomon didn't try to dominate their environment. Instead, they adapted to its rhythms. They hunted without over-exploiting, foraged with balance, and built communities in harmony with the land. In doing so, they created a model of human longevity that modern civilizations rarely achieve. Unlike many ancient civilizations that collapse suddenly due to war, climate change, or internal crises, the Jomon civilization came to an end gradually and peacefully. Their way of life evolved through various phases from early to final Jomon, but there were no signs of abrupt collapse or complete disappearance. Instead, it slowly merged with a new cultural wave as the Yayoi people arrived from the Asian mainland around 300 BCE, bringing rice farming and metalworking techniques. However, the Jomon were not entirely replaced. Elements of their culture, customs, and even their bloodline continued to live on in modern Japanese people. Recent genetic studies show that people in northern Japan, such as in Hokkaido, still carry clear traces of Jomon ancestry, proving that this cultural transition was not an ending, but rather a quiet yet enduring continuity. Today, sites of Jomon culture have been recognized as UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and their artifacts are treasured not only for their age, but for what they represent: a civilization that lived long, changed slowly, and left no empires behind, but gave the world something arguably more enduring: resilience and beauty in simplicity. So did Japan really have a 10,000-year-old pottery culture? Yes, without a doubt. And it may be one of the most astonishing and underappreciated stories in human history. In a time when we measure success by speed, expansion, and domination, the Jomon remind us of another path: slow, steady, sustainable, and deeply human. Before the age of philosophers, before democracy was ever dreamed of, in Athens there stood a civilization of warrior kings and towering stone fortresses, a people who carved their legends into gold and fire. This was the world of the Mycenaeans. From around 1600 to 1100 BCE, they ruled the Greek mainland with a blend of brute power and sophisticated bureaucracy. Their names would echo through eternity in epic poems, their cities crowned with cyclopean walls, and their scribes the first to record the Greek language in the cryptic symbols of Linear B. They were not just ancestors of the Greeks. They were the first to dream of Troy, the first to forge a heroic code, and the first to vanish almost without a trace. What do you think happened to the Mycenaeans? How could such a powerful civilization, with writing warlords and fortified cities, vanish so completely? Drop your theories in the comments. Was it war, natural disaster, rebellion, or something even more mysterious? Despite their brilliance, the Mycenaeans disappeared from history in a way that still baffles scholars. These were not a primitive people. They possessed advanced metallurgy, crafted fine ceramics, managed vast palace economies, and maintained complex bureaucracies using the earliest form of written Greek Linear B. Their cities were centers of political power, religious ritual, and military strength, thriving on trade routes that linked them to the wider Mediterranean. Rooted in Minoan traditions, but reshaped by their own warrior ethos, the Mycenaeans forged a unique civilization. Yet all of this came crashing down. What caused such an advanced society to unravel so completely? How could the builders of such splendor vanish, leaving only shattered ruins and unanswered questions? The mystery only deepens the fascination. Mycenaean cities, such as Mycenae Tiryns and Pylos, were not merely residences for the elite, they were among the most fortified political, religious, and military centers of the Bronze Age. These citadels were enclosed by massive cyclopean walls built from multi-ton stones fitted together without mortar so large that later Greeks believed they must have been constructed by giants. Inside, the palaces served as both administrative hubs and symbols of royal power. The Mycenaeans buried their ruling class in lavish shaft graves, accompanied by golden masks, weapons, and intricate jewelry, reflecting a wealthy, highly stratified society that honored its ancestors through monumental architecture. The Mycenaeans did not exist in isolation. They were part of a vast network that connected the major civilizations of the Bronze Age. From the Aegean, they extended their influence to Egypt, the Hittite Empire, and coastal regions of the Mediterranean, such as the Levant. Archaeological evidence shows they engaged in trade routes, exchanging precious metals, luxury goods, like ivory and pottery, and even cultural ideas. This interconnectedness brought them prosperity, but also made them vulnerable when the wider network began to collapse. Perhaps most famously, the Mycenaeans provided the cultural and historical bedrock for Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. The characters Agamemnon, Menelaus, Achilles, Odysseus echo real Mycenaean rulers and warriors. The world they inhabited, full of alliances, vendettas, and distant warfare, matches the social fabric described in Homeric poetry. Around 1200 to 1100 BCE, a catastrophic event unfolded. The palatial centers of the Mycenaean civilization collapsed one after another in violence. Major cities like Pylos, Tiryns, Thebes, and even Mycenae, the symbol of ultimate power, show clear archaeological evidence of fire destruction and abandonment. The linear B writing system vanished completely, bringing down with it the entire administrative machinery that had once supported the economy and politics. Within just a few generations, Greece fell into what is now known as the Greek Dark Age, an era without writing, without monumental architecture, and with nearly all trade coming to a halt. What is most alarming is not just the collapse itself, but the speed of it. A once powerful and sophisticated civilization disappeared almost without explanation, leaving behind only the silence of ruins and questions still unanswered. The collapse of the Mycenaean civilization remains one of the greatest mysteries of the ancient world, a historical event that even after more than 3 millennia continues to puzzle archaeologists and historians. Many theories have been proposed to explain how such a powerful, organized, and far-reaching civilization could disappear so rapidly. One of the most widely discussed is the invasion by the Sea People's mysterious maritime raiders who devastated several Eastern Mediterranean civilizations around the same time, including the Hittite Empire and New Kingdom Egypt. If Mycenaean Greece was among their targets, the swift destruction of coastal cities could have triggered a broader collapse. Another approach focuses on internal unrest. Some scholars argue that growing social inequality, where the ruling elite accumulated too much wealth and power, led to widespread dissatisfaction, revolts, or even internal coups between noble families. In a society that relied heavily on palace-centered authority, any disruption to the central system could have caused the entire structure to unravel. Natural disasters and climate change must also be considered. Greece lies along major fault lines, and archaeological sites show evidence of significant earthquakes during this period. Simultaneously, geological studies and pollen analysis suggest a prolonged drought around 1200 BCE, which may have led to crop failure, widespread famine, and social instability. Finally, some researchers see the Mycenaean collapse as part of a broader Late Bronze Age systemic crisis, where interdependent civilizations across the region were linked by trade politics and technology. The breakdown of even a single link, such as the disruption of tin supplies essential for making bronze, could have triggered a domino effect. In this view, Mycenaean Greece was not the sole victim, but one piece of a larger interconnected world that was unraveling. Modern scientific discoveries are gradually shedding more light on the collapse of the Mycenaean civilization. Analysis of ancient pollen reveals a significant decline in agricultural activity around 1200 BCE, clear evidence of a prolonged drought. At the same time, isotope studies of human remains indicate changes in diet and mobility, suggesting the occurrence of famine migration or social instability. No single factor alone could have destroyed an entire civilization, but when environmental, social, and economic shocks strike simultaneously, they can form a perfect storm, powerful enough to wipe out a once glorious world. Despite the destruction, some small communities survived. Oral traditions preserved memories of the Mycenaeans. Over time, these evolved into the stories Homer would later record. But for centuries, Greece regressed. The loss of writing, large-scale architecture, and interregional exchange marked a profound cultural silence that lasted until the 8th century BCE, when the Greek alphabet appeared and the polis began to emerge. The collapse of Mycenaean civilization wasn't just the end of a political order, it was the unraveling of an entire system of knowledge, power, and memory. Yet paradoxically, it planted the seeds of later rebirth. The heroes of Homer became models for Greek values of honor, tragedy, and resilience. Even today, the fall of Mycenae stands as a powerful reminder: civilizations, no matter how advanced, remain vulnerable to a convergence of crisis, natural, social, and political. Imagine living in a peaceful village, and then one day, the entire community, not because of war, not because of a natural disaster, gathers to set fire to their own homes. Not just once, but every few generations, like a sacred ritual. Sounds like a brutal rite or a scene from science fiction, but this was the strange reality of a very real civilization. The Cucuteni Tripilia, which thrived over 7,000 years ago in what is now Romania, Moldova, and Ukraine. They didn't build pyramids, leave behind ancient texts, or erect mysterious monuments. What they left behind were ashes, charred red bricks, and layers of clay baked by roaring flames, undeniable evidence that they deliberately burned down their entire settlements again and again. Not due to disaster, not due to invasion, but by their own hands, systematically, cyclically, and ritually. And that has become one of the greatest archaeological mysteries in Europe. Why do you think they did this? If it wasn't war and it wasn't disaster, what could have driven an entire community to burn down their own homes in a repeating cycle? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Was it a ritual of rebirth, an ancient form of religion, or something that goes far beyond our modern imagination? When discussing the Neolithic and early Chalcolithic periods in Europe, few would expect that a civilization with such astonishing urban scale had once existed. The Cucuteni Tripilia culture. Far from being a scattered collection of small villages, the Tripilia people built massive settlements arranged in concentric circular patterns unlike anything else in prehistoric Europe. Some of these sites stretched over 400 hectares, containing up to 3,000 individual homes, the equivalent of a prehistoric city, capable of housing 10,000 to 15,000 people. These numbers are staggering even when compared to contemporaneous civilizations such as early Egypt or Sumer. The spatial organization of these settlements was remarkably deliberate. Houses were arranged in circular rings, forming defined radial pathways leading inward to a central open space, likely used for ritual gatherings or communal assemblies. Although they had no written language, their spatial planning reveals a surprisingly advanced urban mindset deeply rooted in community structure and ceremonial life. For this reason, modern archaeologists consider these sites not just villages, but possibly the first proto-cities in Europe, emerging thousands of years before classical cities appeared in Greece or Rome. One of the strangest mysteries uncovered by archaeologists at Cucuteni Tripilia sites is the widespread evidence of burned settlements. Not just a few scattered houses, but entire villages with hundreds of homes were set ablaze at once, leaving behind thick layers of ash, scorched red clay, and carbonized wood spread across excavation sites. What's truly remarkable is that there's no evidence of warfare, no weapons, no fortifications, no mass graves, no signs of violent conflict. What makes this even more puzzling is that it appears to have happened cyclically approximately every 60 to 80 years. Every few generations, the inhabitants would deliberately burn down their entire village and then rebuild directly atop the ashes. This wasn't the result of disaster, nor was it done in haste. All signs point to a purposeful, carefully organized process repeated over centuries. What could compel an entire civilization to repeatedly destroy the very place they lived, almost as if it were a ritual? That question still has no definitive answer. Among the many theories proposed to explain the strange behavior of the Cucuteni Tripilia people, the most widely accepted suggests that burning their homes was part of a cyclical religious ritual. In early agrarian societies, fire was not just a tool, it was a sacred symbol of purification, renewal, and the eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth. The Tripilia people may have believed that after a certain period of time, their living space had to be cleansed by fire, and from the ashes, a new purer life could begin. It resembled a cosmic renewal ritual where the old must be destroyed to make way for the new. Other scholars have proposed alternative interpretations. The act of burning homes may have been tied to the passing of elders' leadership transitions or key spiritual milestones in the community. Each generation might have burned the traces of the past as a gesture of reverence to their ancestors, seeing old houses not as dwellings anymore, but as sacred spaces to be transformed through the ritual of fire. Whether as a cyclical rite, a social symbol, or an ancestral belief, all signs point to this. The Tripilia people did not burn their homes to destroy, but to recreate life itself. What's remarkable is that the act of burning homes wasn't only symbolic or ritualistic, it also accidentally became an exceptional tool for archaeological preservation. When the Cucuteni Tripilia people set fire to their dwellings, the clay walls were exposed to intense heat and hardened, turning into a primitive form of fired brick. As a result, many of the items inside, such as pottery, fertility figurines, jewelry, and tools, were preserved almost intact for over 7,000 years rather than decomposing over time. Today, archaeologists refer to this as the unintended preservation effect, because these repeated burnings have vividly reconstructed the material, culture, rituals, and beliefs of a civilization with no written records. In the ashes and scorched bricks, a lost past has re-emerged more clearly than anyone could have imagined. Unlike many other civilizations of the time, Cucuteni Tripilia built no fortifications, had no weapons of war, and left behind no evidence of large-scale violence. What was found were simple stone knives, farming tools, and pottery, no signs of armies or oppressive ruling classes. This has led many anthropologists to believe that this might have been a peaceful society, one with decentralized power, where women held significant roles as suggested by the prominence of fertility figurines, and communal life was based more on cooperation than conflict. Although the Cucuteni Tripilia civilization flourished for nearly 2,000 years around 2700 BCE, it vanished completely from history in a manner both quiet and puzzling. There are no signs of epidemic, no evidence of warfare, and no records of invasion. It was as if they had simply disappeared into thin air, leaving behind only ashes, scorched bricks, and unfinished artifacts. Many theories have been proposed. Some researchers believe that climate change may have played a role. Prolonged drought and resource depletion may have rendered their large settlement model unsustainable. Others point to pressure from Indo-European nomadic tribes who brought a warrior-based lifestyle and radically different social organization, potentially leading to conflict or displacement. There are also theories suggesting that their ritual-based non-hierarchical society may have become too rigid, unable to adapt to rapid changes in environment and population dynamics. Whatever the reason, their disappearance remains one of the greatest prehistoric archaeological mysteries in Europe. Cucuteni Tripilia left behind no stone inscriptions or ancient texts, but instead layers of ash, fire-hardened clay, and thousands of small but meaningful artifacts. They lived in large, organized communities, worshipped fertility deities, crafted elegant ceramics, and most mysteriously of all, believed that to continue living, one sometimes had to burn everything down. To them, perhaps fire was not just destruction, but a sacred symbol of transformation, rebirth, and a new beginning. Far from the pyramids and tourist trails of Egypt, in a quiet corner of the desert near Luxor, there is a ceiling that holds a secret. Not a myth, not a legend, but a carved star map so precise, so advanced, it has left modern scientists speechless. Etched in solid stone, over 2,000 years ago, this mysterious relic charts the heavens with an accuracy that defies its age. This is not just ancient art. It is a cosmic puzzle, a message from the past, and a challenge to everything we think we know about the history of astronomy. It is called the Dendera Zodiac. What do you think? Could ancient civilizations really have mapped the stars with such precision without telescopes, computers, or modern math? Drop your theory in the comments below. Was it lost knowledge, or something even stranger? Carved into a massive sandstone slab, weighing nearly 20 tons, the Dendera Zodiac rests on the ceiling of the Temple of Hathor, part of the ancient Dendera temple complex. From the very first glance, this star map breaks away from every familiar pattern of ancient Egyptian art. Instead of the typical square layout or traditional geometric symmetry, it presents a complex concentric circle where human figures, animals, and celestial symbols revolve around an imagined central axis. At the heart of the map is the arched figure of the sky goddess Nut, symbolizing the all-encompassing universe. She is surrounded by deities like Osiris and Horus, and most notably, the 12 zodiac signs, a rare fusion of Greek astrology and Egyptian mythology. However, what truly stuns modern astronomers is not just the religious symbolism, but the way the map displays the positions of planets and celestial phenomena with astonishing precision. What appear to be mystical carvings in stone actually reveal a deep understanding of the night sky, as if the ancients weren't merely gazing upward, but had somehow deciphered the cosmic mechanics of the universe through stone itself. For centuries, scholars have fiercely debated the true purpose of the Dendera Zodiac. Was it merely a religious symbol, like countless other carvings found in Egyptian temples, or was it in fact a functional astronomical instrument? As modern scientists began to examine its details closely, they uncovered a series of anomalies, some of them almost unbelievable. Carved into the stone are unmistakable depictions of Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, all arranged in a clearly intentional pattern. When astronomers recreated the night sky above Dendera using digital sky simulation software, they were stunned to discover that the planetary positions in the zodiac matched almost exactly with the night sky on March 7, 51 BCE. Not just the planets, but also the Sun, the Moon, and the lunar nodes, the precise elements needed to predict solar and lunar eclipses, were all included with a level of accuracy that defies the era in which it was created. This revelation raises a profound and unsettling question. How could the ancient Egyptians have tracked celestial movements with such precision? They had no telescopes, no optical star charts, and no modern mathematical equations. Could they have relied purely on naked-eye observation and oral records passed down through generations, or are we confronting a level of knowledge that modern history has yet to recognize? Faced with the astronomical precision of the Dendera zodiac, far ahead of its time, scholars have been compelled to propose a range of controversial theories. Some researchers believe the ancient Egyptians achieved this accuracy through centuries of careful naked-eye observation, gradually accumulated across generations and encoded into symbolic stone carvings. They may have tracked the movements of planets' eclipses and lunar cycles over thousands of years, eventually constructing a comprehensive astronomical model. However, even this cautious theory fails to fully explain the remarkable precision of the map, especially its near-perfect alignment with the night sky on a specific historical date. More daring theories suggest that the Dendera zodiac was not originally created by the Egyptians themselves, but is instead a remnant of a far older civilization, one that may have vanished with the Egyptians, merely inheriting and preserving its knowledge. Proponents of the Lost Atlantis theory even view it as proof of an advanced, forgotten scientific legacy. Another line of thinking places the zodiac within the Greco-Egyptian Ptolemaic period, when Greek astrology deeply influenced Egyptian cosmology. But whether Greek or Egyptian in origin, the core question remains unanswered. How could people of that time create such a precise circular star map without any modern scientific tools? Many archaeologists believe that the Dendera zodiac was not merely a snapshot of the sky, but may have been used as an ancient astronomical calendar. It could have helped track seasonal cycles, lunar phases, solar and lunar eclipses, and even religious ceremonial dates. This raises a fascinating possibility. Could it have functioned as a stone computer, similar to the Antikythera mechanism of Greece, but even older and more complex? If so, it would mean that the ancients didn't just observe the heavens, they were actually programming time in stone. On the Dendera zodiac, one can clearly recognize the familiar 12 zodiac signs: Aries, Taurus, Gemini. This is surprising, as these symbols are believed to have originated in Mesopotamian and Greek civilizations, yet here they are prominently displayed in an ancient Egyptian temple. However, some scholars argue that the Egyptians did not merely borrow these symbols, but rather restructured and integrated them into their own cosmic belief system. To them, the Dendera zodiac was not a personal horoscope, but rather a cosmological diagram, where each zodiac sign represented a universal force, a stage in the soul's journey through time and rebirth. It was not astrology for predicting fate, but rather a symbolic language of the sacred universe. Today, the original Dendera zodiac no longer resides in Egypt. It was removed by the French and transported to the Louvre Museum in Paris in 1821. Only a replica remains on the temple ceiling in Dendera. Yet no matter its location, this map remains an unresolved enigma. It continues to astonish, not just because of its astronomical precision, but because of the deep thought embedded within a worldview where the sky wasn't just a backdrop, but a sacred system of order, fate, and eternity. The Zodiac Temple of Dendera is no ordinary religious site. It is an ancient observatory, a cosmic diagram, a coded timekeeper, and above all, a reminder that our ancestors may have known far more than we ever imagined. The Dendera Zodiac doesn't just surprise historians, it challenges everything we thought we knew about ancient science and forces us to ask, has modern science truly surpassed the ancients? Or are we merely rediscovering what they already knew long ago? In the wild, arid lands of Balochistan, where ancient stone mountains face the vast Arabian Sea, a creature lies in slumber, not of flesh and bone, but of stone. A colossal rock formation with a hauntingly strange shape, its head raised high like a king, surveying the horizon, its body stretched forward like a guardian, watching over secrets buried for millennia. It has no name in textbooks, and you won't find it on tourist maps. Locals call it the Balochistan Sphinx, a forgotten sphinx buried by time and overlooked by the modern world. Since the first images surfaced on the internet, waves of debate have erupted. Is this truly a masterpiece of nature? Or could it be the remains of a lost civilization, one that might rewrite the history of ancient Asia? And the strangest part, it bears an uncanny resemblance to the Great Sphinx of Giza, so much so that many believe this cannot simply be a coincidence. What do you think about the Balochistan Sphinx? Is it simply the work of wind and time, or a forgotten man-made structure? Could an ancient civilization have once existed here, perhaps even older than Egypt, but vanished without a trace? If an official excavation were conducted, what do you think we might find beneath the rock? Share your thoughts, theories, or even your doubts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. At first glance, the Balochistan Sphinx immediately evokes the image of the Great Sphinx of Giza in Egypt. It lies flat against the stone terrain, with its head raised, a face seemingly defined, and a shape that resembles the traditional headdress worn by ancient Egyptian pharaohs. Its body stretches out in a resting posture. The overall symmetry, the sharply defined contours, and the clean lines on the surface, all these details make it feel far too proportionate to be the product of mere natural erosion. From certain angles, the head of the formation appears to show facial features, a straight nose bridge, a well-defined chin line, and even indentations resembling eyes that gaze forward. Behind it, the body has a continuous smooth curvature, much like the lion-shaped lower half of ancient Sphinx sculptures. Some observers have even pointed out that the lower stone platform resembles paws, or a pedestal similar to the bases found beneath temple statues. What's particularly striking is that the Balochistan Sphinx has never been carved by hand, at least as far as current assessments go, yet its balance and shape are so precise that many cannot help but exclaim, if this wasn't made by humans, then nature has performed a miraculous act of sculpture. Across the world, there are countless rock formations with unusual shapes, but few have caused as much stir as the Balochistan Sphinx. What makes this structure remarkable is not just its bizarre form, but its astonishing resemblance to the Great Sphinx of Giza in Egypt, a symbol deeply tied to myth power and the unresolved mysteries of ancient civilization. The head of the Balochistan rock formation evokes the image of the Nemes headdress, the striped headcloth traditionally worn by Egyptian pharaohs. While exact details remain hard to confirm, its silhouette from a distance creates an uncannily familiar impression, as if we're looking at an ancient statue restored to life. The body lies in a crouched, recumbent position, typical of Sphinx statues found from Egypt to Asia. Most strikingly, the entire structure exhibits a clear symmetry, a feature extremely rare in naturally eroded formations, especially in arid environments where erosion is random and uneven. This strong resemblance has led some independent researchers to propose that this may not be just a variant of the Egyptian Sphinx, but rather an entirely separate ancient Sphinx created by a lost civilization that may have existed before or alongside ancient Egypt, and then vanished without leaving a trace. What makes the Balochistan Sphinx even more mysterious is that it doesn't stand alone. Right beside it lies another massive rock formation, which many believe to be the remnants of an ancient temple carved directly into solid stone. Although it has not been officially studied, the structure clearly displays features that compel closer examination. A large stone staircase leading upward, arch-shaped entrances resembling temple gateways, freestanding columns, and multiple layered platforms like those found in ancient sanctuaries. Despite centuries of erosion from time and harsh climate, the overall form still retains a coherent architectural layout, prompting many to ask, could this be the long-lost remains of a forgotten temple complex? If a proper archaeological excavation were ever conducted, it's entirely possible that foundations or structural elements thousands of years old might be uncovered. Yet to this day, no official archaeological investigation has ever taken place at this site, a glaring omission that continues to frustrate many independent researchers and enthusiasts. Despite its highly unusual shape, and the many theories suggesting it may have artificial origins, the Balochistan Sphinx has never been officially excavated or subjected to any formal archaeological study, either by the Pakistani government or by any international institution. The commonly cited reasons include the site's remote location, difficult access, harsh geological conditions, and a lack of research funding. However, given its potential to reshape our understanding of ancient Asian civilizations, this prolonged silence raises a serious question. Is this merely an accidental oversight, or is something being deliberately concealed? How can a structure that might open an entirely new chapter in South Asian archaeology be left in obscurity? This persistent lack of attention has led many to grow suspicious, believing that the Balochistan Sphinx is not just an unsolved mystery, but perhaps a door to the past that someone is intentionally keeping shut. Not only does the Balochistan Sphinx possess an unusual shape, but it is also located in one of the most sacred regions of Pakistan, near the Hinglaj Mata Temple, where thousands of Hindu devotees make pilgrimages each year. This land has long been intertwined with ancient legends and is often referred to as a transitional zone between the world of gods and humans, where deities once descended and ancient civilizations once flourished before disappearing without a trace. It is precisely this cultural and spiritual backdrop that elevates the stone Sphinx from a mere geological oddity to a deeply mysterious symbol, as if it were a surviving fragment of an ancient world still beyond our full understanding. The more one observes the landscape, the more it feels as though this place preserves not just rock and soil, but also sacred stories buried by time. The Balochistan Sphinx is more than just a bizarrely shaped rock. It stands as a symbol of everything we have yet to understand about our planet, about ancient history, and the possible existence of civilizations that vanished without a trace. If it is merely the result of erosion, then nature has produced a sculpture so perfect it defies belief. But if it is man-made, then we are standing before a discovery that could rewrite the entire archaeological map of Asia. Until a proper excavation and scientific investigation is carried out, the Balochistan Sphinx will remain a mystery lying silently among the barren hills, waiting for someone curious enough, skeptical enough, and bold enough to uncover the truth. Beneath the blazing sun of West Africa, across windswept savannas and forgotten trails, stand thousands of towering stone pillars, silent, ancient, and utterly unexplained. They form perfect circles. Some are massive, some are modest. All are deliberate. Known as the stone circles of Senegambia, this sprawling network of over 1,000 megalithic formations, comprising nearly 30,000 hand-carved stone columns, stretches across the modern nations of Senegal and the Gambia. But here's the mystery. There are no inscriptions, no known architects, no written records, just stone and silence. And for centuries, one haunting question has echoed across the ages. Who built them? And why? Who do you think built these mysterious stone circles? And for what purpose? Are they the remnants of a lost civilization or the legacy of ancestors whose memory has faded with time? Share your thoughts or theories in the comments below. We'd love to know how you interpret this ancient mystery. The Senegambian stone circles stretch across a vast region approximately 350 kilometers long and 100 kilometers wide, forming one of the densest and most complex megalithic zones in the world. Each circle typically consists of between 8 and 25 stone columns, standing upright in meticulously laid patterns, mostly circular or elliptical. These stones, some reaching heights of 2.5 meters and weighing several tons, were all hewn from laterite, an iron-rich reddish stone that hardens upon exposure to air. The consistency and precision of their shapes suggest not just technical prowess, but also an enduring vision, a cultural or spiritual drive that has yet to be fully understood. Despite their scale and visual power, the stone circles remained virtually unstudied for decades. Only in recent years have archaeologists begun to uncover their secrets. And even then, the biggest question remains unanswered. The most compelling and perplexing aspect of the Senegambian circles is the complete absence of clear historical attribution. Unlike the pyramids of Egypt or the Great Zimbabwe ruins, no definitive civilization has stepped forward from the mists of time to claim these works. No inscriptions, no written records, no myths that survive intact in oral traditions to point to a definitive builder. This void has led to a wide array of competing theories. One prevailing hypothesis suggests that the stone circles were built by the ancestors of the Sera people, a West African ethnic group with deep spiritual ties to the land. The Sera maintain a strong tradition of funerary customs, and some oral histories speak of stone arrangements linked to burial practices. However, the evidence remains circumstantial. There are no clear archaeological links between the earliest Sera communities and the construction of the largest or oldest circles. Another theory places the origin of the circles in the hands of pre-Islamic West African communities, possibly arising during the period between 300 BCE and 1600 CE. Excavations at some sites, such as Siningayen, have revealed human burials at the center of certain circles, suggesting that these monuments may have served as cemeteries or sacred ritual grounds. Yet again, the question of who exactly orchestrated these elaborate constructions and how they coordinated efforts across such a vast landscape remains elusive. There's also a more speculative angle that the stone circles were constructed by a now-lost civilization, one that flourished and vanished long before the rise of more documented empires in the region. Given the level of organization, skill, and labor required to build these megaliths, such a civilization would have had a robust social hierarchy and a sophisticated understanding of engineering. But no trace of such a culture has been unearthed in surrounding areas. No cities, no tools, no definitive pottery styles. Just stone and silence. Could it be that the knowledge of their builders was intentionally forgotten or absorbed into the cultural memory of newer groups over centuries of migration, conquest, and change. What makes the mystery even more profound is the incredible labor that must have gone into creating the stone circles. Quarrying laterite is no small feat. The stone must be extracted from the ground, shaped while still soft, and then left to harden in open air. Some of these columns weigh more than a ton and would have required coordinated teams, tools, and transportation systems to move and erect them. Given the sheer volume, nearly 30,000 standing stones, one must assume a highly organized society was behind their creation. But where are the palaces of the elite, the workshops of the masons, the records of the priesthood? These are the usual trappings of a megalithic culture, and yet in Senegambia, they are conspicuously absent. All we have are the circles themselves, stoic, quiet, and unreadable. Many of the circles are associated with human graves, sometimes directly within the circle, other times just outside. At sites like Wanar and Sineingayin, excavations have revealed bones, funerary urns, beads, and iron weapons, all pointing to a ritualistic or symbolic purpose. The spatial arrangement of stones, often aligned with cardinal directions, also hints at possible cosmological or spiritual meanings. But even here, the trail grows cold. Were these monuments built to honor ancestors, to celebrate tribal leaders, or to invoke protection from deities? Did they represent unity among scattered villages, or serve as territorial markers? With no written language or pictographs to explain their purpose, each answer remains speculative. Today, the stone circles of Senegambia are recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site, not only for their immense archaeological value, but also for their role in highlighting the complexity of West African history. They remind us that Africa's past is not just one of oral legends or colonial encounters, but of engineering, architecture, ritual, and forgotten empires. And yet the most powerful feature of these monuments may be their silence, a silence that challenges us to question what we think we know about civilization. In a world dominated by scripts and empires, the builders of Senegambia left no name, no title, no claim of conquest. They left stone shaped and placed with purpose, inviting us to look, wonder, and interpret. Local communities today often treat the circles with respect, sometimes avoiding them altogether, citing ancestral or spiritual significance. While they may not know the full story of the builders, they are custodians of the mystery, and that too is a form of historical continuity. In many ways, the stone circles of Senegambia are not just relics of the past. They are ongoing questions. They invite a re-evaluation of how history is preserved, who is remembered, and how much we may never know. In their enduring presence, they quietly challenge the idea that all civilizations must leave behind monuments of conquest or wealth. Sometimes the most profound monuments are those whose very purpose was never to be explained, but to be experienced. Thousands of stone pillars rising from the soil of West Africa, yet no names, no inscriptions, no known builders. Are they the echoes of a lost civilization? The legacy of ancestors whose wisdom has slipped beyond memory? Or perhaps they are a testament to something deeper, a universal human desire to mark time, honor life, and reach toward the divine. Until the day we find a definitive answer, they will remain as they have for centuries, silent sentinels of a forgotten world waiting for us to understand. Off the northern coast of mainland Scotland lies a remote archipelago known as the Orkney Islands. Wind-swept, sea-battered, and hauntingly beautiful, these islands hide one of the greatest prehistoric enigmas of Europe, the chambered cairns of Orkney. These are not just burial tombs. They are monumental stone structures, some built over 5,000 years ago, that seem to encode astronomical knowledge, ritual significance, and architectural mastery far beyond what we would expect from Neolithic communities. But perhaps the most mind-bending mystery of all is this: how did a society without metal tools, without writing, and without complex machinery construct these massive stone tombs and align them so precisely with the movements of the sun? What knowledge did they possess? Who were they really? What do you think? How could Neolithic people with no metal, no writing, and no machines build massive stone structures with such astronomical precision? What tools or methods might they have used? Could they have known something we've lost to time? And the biggest question, who were they really? Share your theories in the comments below. Were they forgotten ancient geniuses, or is there something here that still escapes modern understanding? At first glance, a chambered cairn in Orkney may appear to be nothing more than a grass-covered mound with a few ancient stones protruding from a windswept field. But once you step inside, everything changes. The most iconic of these is Maeshoa, a stone tomb located on Orkney's main island, dating back to around 2800 BCE. Inside, you don't just find a dry stone chamber constructed without mortar, you experience the astonishing precision of sunlight. On the exact day of the winter solstice, when the sun sets at its lowest point in the year, a single beam of light travels through Maeshoa's long and narrow passage, striking the innermost burial chamber. This phenomenon occurs only for a few days each year and only for a brief moment. It demonstrates that the alignment was calculated with incredible accuracy far beyond mere coincidence. This is not just architecture, it is a masterpiece of stone and astronomy crafted by human hands over 5,000 years ago. And Maeshoa is not alone. Dozens of other cairns such as Unstan Tavasu, Tuik Queen Hill, and Widford Hill all reveal a similar combination of complex design and solar or lunar orientation. These are not merely tombs, they are ritual monuments of cosmic scale, as if ancient people were trying to send a message about life, death, and the eternal cycle of time. The fact that a stone tomb could be aligned so precisely that the setting sun on the winter solstice shines directly into its inner chamber is far from coincidental. Achieving this requires an astonishing level of understanding, from years of tracking the sun's annual cycle to the ability to determine direction and spatial positioning with accuracy, all accomplished without writing, without modern measuring instruments. How could Neolithic communities in Orkney, living on isolated islands, without clocks, telescopes, or celestial charts, identify the rarest moment of the year when the sun reaches its lowest point on the horizon? Some scholars suggest that these ancient people passed down knowledge through generations of careful observation. They watched where the sun rose and set, how it changed with the seasons, and gradually marked celestial events using stones, ground markers, or oral tradition. But other theories propose that structures like Maeshoa weren't just for tracking the sky, they embodied a deeply ritualistic cosmology where the sun's cycle symbolized life, death, and rebirth. In this view, the dead weren't simply buried in darkness, they were placed in position to be reawakened by sunlight each year at the solstice as a sacred promise that life continues beyond death. Whether one interprets it as practical or spiritual, the technical precision required still stuns us today. Even with modern tools, aligning a stone corridor to catch a single beam of sunlight on a single day each year is no simple task. And yet these so-called primitive farmers, with nothing but stone tools and antler picks, made it happen. Perhaps we have seriously underestimated the intellectual brilliance of prehistoric humanity. Inside Maeshoa, hidden behind its ancient grey stones, lies another mystery, not from the original builders, but from later intruders, the Vikings. Around the 12th century, they broke into the cairn and left behind numerous runic inscriptions carved into the stone walls. These carvings range from crude jokes and claims of presence to symbols with ambiguous meaning, as if trying to leave a message that transcends time. What's strange is this: even the Vikings, masters of navigation and warfare, did not understand the true purpose of Maisho. They left behind words. But the original builders chose to leave behind structure, shadow, and lighter language beyond writing, leaving future generations to interpret it in silence. One thing that continues to astonish archaeologists is how the chambered cairns of Orkney are visually connected to other ancient monuments in the region, not by chance, but through deliberate spatial alignment. From the mound of Maisho, one can see directly toward the standing stones of Stennis, the massive ring of Brodgar, and even the Neolithic village of Skara Brae. Though separated by several kilometers, these sites form a ceremonial axis, linked by sightlines, terrain, and the movement of light. This interconnectedness suggests that the ancients weren't simply building tombs. They were constructing a sacred map in stone, where each location marked a moment in time, associated with seasonal festivals, solar and lunar cycles, and possibly even the spiritual structure of their society. Light, shadow, stone, and water became one, transforming the entire landscape into a natural timekeeping machine powered by ancient knowledge we have yet to fully comprehend. This is the core of the mystery and the heart of the fascination. Who were these ancient builders? Archaeology tells us they were part of a Neolithic farming society, one that arrived in Orkney around 3600 BCE. They built houses, cultivated land, raised livestock, but they also constructed stone temples, sun-aligned tombs, and megalithic rings. This was not a primitive people. This was a culture with abstract thinking, spatial mastery, and a spiritual system that demanded incredible architectural expression. But how did they cut, move, and place stones, weighing several tons without metal tools or pulleys? How did they measure angles and positions of the sun across seasons? How did they preserve knowledge long enough to execute such projects when no writing existed? Even more perplexing, why go through the enormous effort to align tombs with the sun? Was it for the dead, for the gods, or for something even deeper? A way of understanding existence, of ensuring cosmic harmony? The answers remain buried in silence. No inscriptions, no blueprints, just stone. And yet the stones speak in their alignment, in their endurance, in their mystery. In recent years, some scholars have begun to view the Orkney cairns not simply as tombs, but as transmitters of knowledge built to communicate something to the future. Could it be that their alignment with the winter solstice was meant to convey a message about light returning after darkness, about hope embedded in the cycle of time? If so, that message still resonates. Each year, when the sun sets on December 21st and its rays pierce the darkness of Maisho's chamber, we are reminded of something profound that even in the depths of winter light finds its way through stone. Before Rome laid its first stone, before Athens carved its first statue, somewhere in the forgotten heart of Anatolia, a secret was sealed beneath the soil. For over 800 years, it lay untouched. No legends, no records, no hint of its presence. Then in 2018, archaeologists, brushing away layers of earth in Uşaklı Höyük, made a discovery so out of place, so shockingly sophisticated, that it forced historians to stop and ask, who created this, and how could such refined artistry exist at a time when the Western world still walked in shadows? What they found was not a mural, not a temple wall, not a sculpture, but a floor. A floor composed of tiny, hand-cut stones, arranged with impossible precision into patterns so hypnotic, so mathematically complex they felt like a message from a forgotten civilization. This is Uşaklı Höyük mosaic, a masterpiece that defies chronology, breaks all artistic expectations, and whispers from the silence of the past in a visual language we are only beginning to decipher. What do you think this mosaic was truly made for? Was it simply decorative? Or could it hold a sacred message, mathematical knowledge, or an ancient code long forgotten? Share your theory in the comments below. Let's see how far modern minds can go in decoding this ancient mystery. The discovery of the mosaic at Uşaklı Höyük has shaken the archaeological world not merely because of its geometric beauty, but because it challenges the entire timeline we once believed about the development of mosaic art. Dated to around the 9th century BCE, this mosaic predates the oldest known Greek mosaics, previously thought to be the birthplace of the technique by at least 400 years. Until now, historians widely considered mosaic art a product of the Greco-Roman world, but the geometric flaw at Uşaklı Höyük suggests that Anatolian culture may have independently developed its own refined aesthetic system and decorative techniques. What's most remarkable is not just its age, but the craftsmanship, the precision of form, and the visual language, a kind of aesthetic DNA that shows no trace of influence from the ancient Mediterranean. This is not simply ancient, it is an artistic revolution that emerged far earlier than anyone expected. Most ancient mosaics familiar to us are composed of small square tiles called tesserae made from colored stones, marble glass, or ceramic. These were meticulously laid to form portraits, mythological scenes, or naturalistic images in villas, bathhouses, and public spaces. The Roman tradition elevated this to an art form of vibrant realism. But the Uşaklı Höyük mosaic is something else entirely. It does not aim to imitate life. It does not try to depict gods, animals, or people. It does not use vivid color to seduce the eye. Instead, it captures the viewer with a kind of ancient abstraction, mathematical, spiritual, and ritualistic. The mosaic is made from small, precisely cut limestone pieces, most shaped into isosceles triangles, no larger than a few centimeters across. These were arranged with astonishing regularity to form interlocking zigzag motifs, diamond shapes, and rhythmic mirrored geometries. The level of precision is remarkable, especially considering the time and tools likely available. Each piece was carved by hand from local stone, fitted without mortar, and laid flush into the compacted earth. The result is a visual texture of rhythmic energy, as if the floor pulses with the logic of a forgotten code. The use of only natural limestone, without pigment or artificial coloring, means the entire artwork relies solely on shape contrast and repetition to achieve its effect. This minimalism, far from being primitive, feels intentional, like a statement. It reflects a conceptual design ethos, one that values order, symmetry, and perhaps even metaphysical harmony over sensory excess. Even the geometric patterns themselves seem to reject simple decoration. The floor feels ritualistic, not just beautiful, but meaningful. It could be a visual expression of cosmology, a map of spiritual balance, or a coded language lost to time. The fact that such patterns appear in a non-domestic context, likely a sacred or administrative building, only deepens the mystery. Was this floor a visual invocation of cosmic order, a symbolic foundation for spiritual ceremony, a means of imprinting cultural identity through geometry? We do not know, but we feel unmistakably that this was not just flooring. It was a canvas of cultural depth, executed with tools and vision we are only beginning to comprehend. Found at the archaeological site of Uşaklı Höyük, a once important Hittite and later Phrygian settlement, the mosaic lay hidden for nearly 3 millennia. it remained untouched, protected by layers of earth, forgotten by history until its rediscovery in 2018 by a team of Turkish and Italian archaeologists. Its state of preservation is breathtaking. Most of the geometric patterns are intact, and the stones have maintained their alignment despite centuries of pressure and erosion. This preservation is key. Many ancient sites have suffered looting, reconstruction, or simple degradation. But the Uşaklı mosaic is like a message in a bottle, from the past, sealed silent, and now finally opened. The building in which it was found also tells a story. Unlike Roman mosaics typically found in elite villas, this floor was part of a more communal or official structure. It was not meant for comfort or domestic pleasure. Its purpose again seems symbolic or ceremonial. This disconnect from Roman traditions forces us to re-examine our assumptions. Mosaics may not have been merely decorative art imported from the Mediterranean elite. Perhaps they had older, deeper roots in the religious or political landscapes of Anatolian cultures, a language of power and belief written in stone. In many ways, the Uşaklı Höyük mosaic is not just a discovery. It's a challenge, a provocation. It tells us that there are entire chapters of human creativity we have yet to uncover. That symmetrical design, abstract thinking, and complex stoneworking were present far earlier and far more widespread than previously believed. It invites comparisons with other ancient geometric traditions, the patterns of the early Islamic world, the tiles of Mesopotamia, or the Neolithic symbols etched into megalithic sites. But unlike those, this mosaic sits at the crossroads of function and abstraction, flaw and ritual, silence and brilliance. And it raises the question, what else is still buried beneath our feet? What other artistic revolutions have we mistakenly attributed to Rome, to Greece, or to the Renaissance, when in fact they began in the soft, fertile soils of forgotten valleys? We do not know the name of the artisan who created this. We do not know what culture trained their hand, what philosophy shaped their vision. But we know this: they were not just laying stones. They were communicating, through rhythm, through geometry, through the cold permanence of limestone. And now, after 3,000 years of silence, we are finally listening. Hidden in the Japanese countryside lies a massive stone structure, and no one knows why it exists. There are no inscriptions, no signs of builders, no explanation. It rests silently among the green hills of Asuka, as if forgotten by time, or placed there by a civilization that no longer exists. People call it Masuda no Iwafune, or the Asuka giant stone, but the name only adds to the mystery. No one knows what it was created for. No one can explain its bizarre shape. And to this day, archaeologists, engineers, and even fringe researchers all share one thing in common: none of them understand this stone. What do you think? The Asuka giant stone is proof that some things from the past remain completely beyond our current understanding. Sometimes a silent rock can raise more questions than any written record. So, what do you think this stone truly is? A foundation, a ritual object, an ancient astronomical monument, or something far beyond our imagination? Share your theory in the comments below. And remember, sometimes it's the unexplained that pushes science and imagination forward the most. The Asuka giant stone, also known as Masuda no Iwafune, is a massive granite monolith weighing around 800 tons, measuring nearly 11 meters long, 8 meters wide, and 4.7 meters high. It stands completely isolated on a small hillside, unconnected to any nearby ruins or ancient structures. What makes it truly remarkable is not just its enormous size, but its strangely unique shape and its entirely unknown purpose. The structure looks like something that doesn't belong to any known era, raising far more questions than answers. This is what makes the Asker giant stone truly mysterious and unique. Unlike any ancient stone ever discovered, not a tomb, not an altar, not a sculpture. Masuda no Iwafune looks like a massive upside-down ship planted in the ground with an unusually flat, sharply cut surface. In fact, its name in Japanese can be translated as the Stone Ship of Masuda. On top of the stone, two square-shaped ridges rise in parallel with a deep, rectangular trench carved cleanly between them. This groove appears to have been deliberately shaped, yet there is no indication of what it was meant for. The design does not resemble any known architectural pattern or religious symbol in Japanese history. In fact, it bears no clear cultural connection to temples, burial mounds, or ancient astronomical observatories. Some scholars have speculated that it may be an unfinished foundation for a larger structure, or perhaps a remnant of an ancient Shinto ritual site. However, the problem is that there is nothing else like it anywhere in the region, no similar structures, no stylistic references. It stands alone, isolated, as if it came from an entirely different civilization. Even the orientation and layout of the stone raise questions. Why two parallel ridges? Why carve a rectangular trench so precisely in the center? If it was for water drainage or ritual purposes, why the extreme precision and effort? Its odd shape, almost as if it doesn't belong to any known era, has led some to describe it in poetic, even provocative terms. Masuda no Iwafune doesn't look like an artifact from ancient human hands. It looks like a giant piece of forgotten technology left behind by a long-lost civilization, or something not of this earth. The fact that the Asker stone was carved from granite, one of the hardest natural materials on Earth, poses one of the greatest mysteries surrounding this structure. With a hardness second only to diamond, granite is extremely difficult to shape, especially considering the tools and techniques that would have been available over 400 years ago. Yet, the surface of the stone has been finished in a way that is strikingly flat, sharply defined, and so precise it appears almost unnatural, with no visible traces of chiseling, sawing, or any use of metal tools. There are no cut lines, no signs of abrasion, and no mechanical markings. All that remains is a silent structure, with geometrically exact lines as if it were crafted using technology far beyond its time. This leads to a central question. What tools did ancient people use to carve this stone? And why would they go to such effort? There are no historical records, no folklore, and no archaeological documentation related to its construction. It's as if it was created and then completely abandoned, never finished, never used. The Asker region once served as the ancient capital of Japan during the Asker period 538–710 CE, and to this day it preserves many important historical relics such as old Buddhist temples, keyhole-shaped burial mounds, kofun stone reliefs, and remnants of ancient Shinto rituals. This area is considered rich in cultural and spiritual heritage, where Buddhist influence intersected with native beliefs. However, nowhere in the entire region is there any structure that shares the shape, style, or scale of the Asker giant stone. It stands in complete isolation, with no architectural, symbolic, or ritual connection to anything else known. Some Japanese scholars have suggested that it may have been a primitive astronomical device, possibly used to track the movement of the sun or mark seasonal events. But if that were true, why is there only a single stone? Why are there no accompanying markers, scales, or directional indicators? These questions render the theory vague at best, as if the stone exists completely disconnected from the civilization that surrounded it. For decades, the Aska giant stone has been at the center of numerous theories, ranging from scholarly interpretations grounded in science to bold mystical speculations. Some researchers believe it may be the unfinished foundation of a religious structure, possibly used in ancient Shinto rituals, but abandoned for unknown reasons. Others lean toward the idea that it was a primitive astronomical device, perhaps intended to track the sun or mark seasonal events. There are also scholars who view the structure as symbolic, like a stone gateway to the afterlife, reflecting the spiritual beliefs of ancient Japan. Some suggest it was a technical experiment designed to test the limits of stone quarrying and craftsmanship in ancient times. However, as conventional theories failed to fully explain the stone's shape and astonishing precision, more fringe ideas have emerged, including the notion that it is a relic of a lost civilization or even a trace of extraterrestrial technology. While no solid evidence supports these wilder speculations, the mystery endures and continues to ignite the imagination of humanity. To this day, Masuda no Iwafune has never been officially classified as a religious site, a tomb, or an astronomical device. Although it lies within the Aska Cultural Heritage Area, the stone has no signposts, no interpretive materials, and no official explanation from authorities or scholars. It simply exists, a massive, mysterious, and silent monolith that makes anyone who approaches it stop and wonder who created this and why did they do it. These questions still hang in the air unanswered. Beneath the windswept plains of southern Spain, buried under centuries of silence, lies the ghost of a civilization, once drenched in gold power and mystery. A kingdom so rich the Greeks spoke of it in awe. A land so lost, no one can say where its capital stood. This was Tartessos, Europe's forgotten golden empire. It flourished long before Rome traded with the Phoenicians' dazzled Greek sailors, and then it simply disappeared. No war, no trace, no explanation. What force could erase an entire civilization from history? Was Tartessos consumed by water, crushed by war, or swallowed by time itself? This is the story of a kingdom that should never have vanished, and the secrets it may still be hiding beneath the soil. What do you think happened to Tartessos? Was it wiped out by a natural disaster, erased by invaders, or lost to history through slow decay? Drop your theories in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you believe happened to Europe's lost golden empire. Tartessos arose in the fertile basin of the Guadalquivir River near the modern city of Seville. Positioned strategically between the Atlantic and the Mediterranean, this region was abundant in natural resources, gold, silver, copper, and especially tin, essential for making bronze. Its riches drew the attention of seafaring peoples like the Phoenicians and Greeks, who established trade relations and left records of a kingdom brimming with opulence and exotic customs. Greek writers such as Herodotus described Tartessos as a great kingdom ruled by a long line of kings, notably one named Argantonios, who reportedly reigned for 80 years and lived to the incredible age of 120. To the Greeks, Tartessos was more than a trading partner. It was a mythic land of wealth and longevity, almost too marvelous to be real. Yet the archaeological record offers tantalizing support. Gold jewelry, elaborate artifacts, and funerary sites suggest a people skilled in metallurgy, trade, and religious ritual. Tartessian society was a unique cultural melting pot. While rooted in Iberian traditions, it was deeply influenced by the Phoenicians' masters of maritime trade and writing. This interaction gave rise to a hybrid art-style architecture and even a mysterious Tartessian script, which remains only partially deciphered to this day. Their temples and burial grounds reveal complex spiritual beliefs, likely blending local animism with Phoenician deities like Baal and Astarte. The Phoenicians may also have brought not just commerce, but cosmopolitanism, exposing Tartessians to new technologies, writing systems, and religious concepts. As a result, Tartessos became the first truly urbanized society in Western Europe. But this rapid rise strangely was followed by an equally swift disappearance. Around 500 BCE, Tartessos vanished, not faded slowly or transformed, gradually vanished. The city-states, kings, and culture that Greek chroniclers had once admired were suddenly gone. There were no more mentions in foreign texts, no more new inscriptions, no obvious ruins of capital cities. It was as if the earth itself had swallowed Tartessos whole. This disappearance remains one of the great historical puzzles of the ancient world, with several competing theories, none conclusive. One hypothesis suggests that a massive natural disaster, perhaps a tsunami or an earthquake along the Iberian coast, devastated the region. The southwest of the Iberian Peninsula is seismically active, and such a catastrophe could have easily wiped out low-lying settlements, ports, and agricultural centers. This theory gains traction from the fact that many Tartessian sites are coastal, and the sudden silence in the archaeological record hints at abrupt total collapse, not slow decline. Some scholars even speculate that Tartessos may have been destroyed in a flooding event so dramatic it inspired later myths, including the story of Atlantis. Though highly speculative, this idea resonates with Plato's account of a rich, advanced society destroyed by water. Another plausible theory involves politics and war. As Phoenicia's power waned due to Assyrian and Babylonian pressure in the Near East, its western colonies, especially Carthage, grew stronger. Carthage became the dominant maritime power in the western Mediterranean, and with its rise came a new order, one that may have found Tartessos both a threat and a rival. Some historians believe Carthage may have wiped out Tartessos, militarily destroying its cities or forcing its leaders into submission. More subtly, Carthage may have simply cut off Tartessos from its key trade routes, starving the economy and culture until it disintegrated. In either case, the Phoenician allies of Tartessos were no longer in power, leaving the kingdom isolated and vulnerable. Yet another theory posits that Tartessos didn't vanish so much as it faded into other cultures. Over time, its elites may have merged with neighboring Iberian tribes, or Celtiberians losing their distinct identity. With the decline of international trade and growing local instability, Tartessian cities may have been abandoned. Gradually, their people absorbed into rural societies or new regional powers. This would explain why so few identifiable Tartessian ruins have been found. They may lie beneath later settlements or were reused and repurposed. The lack of texts or monumental inscriptions from this later phase may signal a loss of literacy and elite culture rather than total destruction. Perhaps the most perplexing part of the Tartessos mystery is that its capital city has never been located. Unlike Troy or Mycenae, there is no clearly identified urban center that can definitively be called Tartessos. Numerous archaeological digs have proposed possible candidates, such as the site at El Carambolo, where a cache of gold jewelry was found in 1958, but no consensus exists. Some suggest the capital now lies under modern Seville or was washed away by ancient floods. Others believe it may be buried beneath silt in the Doñana National Park. But despite advanced technology, satellite surveys, and ground-penetrating radar, no lost city of Tartessos has emerged, only fragments, tombs, and treasures. This absence of physical cities is partly what gives Tartessos its mythic quality. It is a civilization attested in foreign accounts, confirmed by mysterious artifacts, yet missing the urban footprint that defines most ancient cultures. The tale of Tartessos continues to haunt scholars and storytellers. Its sudden silence around 500 BCE marks one of the sharpest cultural disappearances in European prehistory. For a civilization that once traded with Phoenicia, welcomed Greek ships, minted wealth in metal, and may have inspired the legend of Atlantis, to vanish without a trace is both baffling and enthralling. Even now, gold artifacts with intricate patterns, carved stone slabs with unknown symbols, and ancient tombs point to a world once vibrant with life and ceremony. Tartessos was a bridge between East and West bronze, and iron myth and memory. And perhaps buried beneath the marshes of southwestern Spain, its greatest secrets are still waiting to be unearthed. Buried beneath the dry sands of Peru's northern coast, among silent pyramids and shimmering fragments of gold lost to time, lies a civilization so dazzling it feels almost unreal, yet nearly forgotten by history. They crafted funerary masks from solid gold, buried their leaders like gods, and mastered metalworking techniques that still astonish the modern world. For centuries, the Sican, also known as Sipan, built a mysterious, wealthy society saturated with sacred symbolism. And yet they left behind not a single written word, no names, no epic tales, no recorded myths. All that remains are gold bones and questions no one has answered. They were legendary master goldsmiths, but no one knows who they were. What do you think really happened to them? Why would a civilization intelligent enough to turn gold into art leave behind not a single written word? Share your theories or thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. One of the most astonishing aspects of the Sican civilization is their near-total obsession with metal, especially gold. They weren't merely skilled craftsmen. They were master metallurgists working with techniques far ahead of their time. The Sican could cast hollow molds with precision weld at high temperatures and even used early electrochemical gilding methods to create ultra-thin yet durable layers of gold, an achievement rarely seen in any other ancient culture. Alloys like tumbaga, a gold-copper blend, were used with great flexibility to produce artifacts with distinct color durability and symbolic meaning. But more remarkable than their skill is this: to the Sican, gold was not a symbol of wealth, but a symbol of religion and immortality. They didn't use gold for trade or hoarding. Instead, it represented the sun, the gods, and the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. Solid gold funerary masks, crowns carved with celestial birds, massive silver earrings, and ceremonial vessels etched with heavenly imagery were all buried with elite leaders inside mud-brick pyramids across the Lambayeque region. Each object served not only a ritual purpose, but acted as a visual language, a substitute for writing, telling stories of spirituality, power, and worldview that the Sican never recorded in words. In 1987, the world of archaeology was shaken when Peruvian archaeologist Walter Alva uncovered a fully intact royal tomb, something long believed impossible after thousands of years. It was the tomb of El Señor de Sipan, a powerful ruler of the Sican civilization. Hidden beneath the earth, the burial chamber held over 600 precious artifacts, ranging from gold, silver, and copper to rare seashells and feathers, all arranged in an elaborate funerary ritual unlike anything ever seen before in the Americas. Alongside the ruler's remains were two attendants, a warrior, a woman, possibly a wife or priestess, a child, and a llama, all buried with him to serve in the afterlife. The objects discovered were remarkable not just for their material value, but for their deep symbolic meaning. A solid gold funerary mask, gem-encrusted jewelry, gigantic ceremonial earrings, and a silver-tipped spear all bore the image of the Sikan deity, a divine face surrounded by bird wings, rays of light water, and celestial symbols. These symbols revealed a rich, intricate, and ritual-driven religious system. And yet there was not a single word, no writings, no glyphs, no stone carvings to tell us who this man was, how he ruled, or what his people truly believed. One of the greatest and most puzzling paradoxes of the Sikan civilization is the absolute silence they left behind. For centuries of flourishing development, the Sikan built a highly stratified society, carried out elaborate religious rituals, buried their leaders with hundreds of exquisitely crafted artifacts, and left behind temples and adobe pyramids scattered across Peru's northern coast. And yet they left behind no writing system whatsoever, no alphabet, no stone-carved symbols, no administrative records, and not a single myth preserved in written form. Everything we know about them today comes from archaeological artifacts, repeating symbolic motifs and interpretations by modern researchers. This creates an enormous gap in our understanding of who they truly were. We call them Sikan, a modern name given by archaeologists derived from the region where many of their remains were found. But no one knows what they actually called themselves, what language they spoke, what they believed about death, the sun, or the cosmos, or what stories may have been passed down through generations. While civilizations like the Maya Egyptians or Chinese left behind vast bodies of text that allow us to understand their spiritual and social worlds, the Sikan are like golden phantoms, glimmering yet completely voiceless. They were a civilization that reached the heights of artistry and spiritual sophistication, yet their true identity is buried completely. No names, no voices, no memories carried forward through time. Without a writing system, the Sikan developed an extremely complex visual language of symbols to express their worldview and religious beliefs. Funerary masks were crafted differently, depending on the social status of the deceased, depicting divine power, rebirth, solar energy, or oceanic spirits. On ceremonial plates and artifacts, scholars have found recurring motifs such as celestial birds, deep-sea fish, the sun flowing water, and arms reaching toward the sky, all forming a kind of mythology, told through imagery rather than words. Yet no one truly understands the meaning of these symbols. Did they believe souls were reborn through water, or that the sun was a gateway to the divine? Everything remains speculation, because the Sikan left no voice or explanation for future generations to hear. Around the 12th to 13th century, the Sikan civilization collapsed abruptly without leaving a farewell. Their adobe pyramids were abandoned royal tombs, left unfinished, and their symbolic religious rituals gradually disappeared. Some researchers believe that severe drought, internal conflict, or deep spiritual upheaval may have caused the society to collapse from within. Later, the Chimu followed by the Inca took over the region, but the spirit of Sikan no longer remained. The artisans who once transformed metal into sacred symbols, who buried their rulers like gods, and who built temples with their bare hands in the desert, vanished without leaving a name. There are no written records, no oral legends passed down, and no known descendants today who claim to be Sikan. They were simply a civilization that once shone brilliantly, then was buried in sand and eternal silence. And perhaps that's what makes the Sikan more fascinating than any other ancient civilization. They're not like Atlantis, a myth, nor like Egypt or China, where we have deep archives of text. The Sikan are real. You can touch their artifacts, walk through their temples, even uncover their mummies, and still know nothing about who they truly were. They are anonymous masters, nameless, dead, forgotten deities, and voices that will never be heard again. A civilization without war, without kings, without monuments of power. Yet they built cities with urban planning more advanced than many modern ones. Not Egypt, not Mesopotamia, but a completely different world, one that existed over 4,000 years ago and then vanished as if it had never been there. This was the Indus Valley Civilization, also known as the Harappa Civilization, one of the greatest and most perplexing mysteries in human history. Not only was it one of the 3 earliest cradles of civilization, but it also stunned the world with its extraordinary advancements in engineering, city planning, and sanitation, all while leaving behind virtually no signs of war or domination. From around 3300 BCE to 1300 BCE, they built cities like Mohenjo-Daro, Harappa, Dholavira, and Lothal, home to hundreds of thousands of people. A world where every street followed a precise grid, every house had its own water supply, and society seemed to function without the need for violence or religious control. And then, the entire civilization disappeared without a trace. No war, no destruction, just a strange and total silence. Why did such an advanced society vanish without a sign? What really happened to them? And could it be a warning for us today? The story of the Indus Valley Civilization begins now. What do you think really happened to the Indus Valley Civilization? Was it flooding drought or a shifting river that caused their fall? Or could there be another reason, one that history books have never mentioned? Share your theory or thoughts in the comments below. Who knows, you might be the one to uncover the next clue in this mystery that has lasted for thousands of years. One of the most remarkable aspects that made the Indus Valley Civilization stand out was its urban planning that was thousands of years ahead of its time. Indus cities weren't random clusters of houses, they were the result of a sophisticated master plan, streets laid out in a precise grid, intersecting at right angles, divided clearly into functional zones from residential and industrial areas to administrative or public centers. What's truly astonishing is that their sewage and public sanitation systems were more advanced than those in many medieval European cities. Drainage pipes were constructed beneath the main streets, carrying wastewater from households out of the city, a closed-loop system that was efficient and remarkably progressive. Even more impressive, most houses had private bathrooms and wells, and in many areas there were water filtration systems, evidence of a society deeply concerned with personal hygiene and quality of life. Bricks used in construction were manufactured with a standardized 1:4 ratio, a level of precision that's hard to believe for an ancient society. This suggests they had a unified system of measurement, advanced technical skills, and the capacity for mass production. Unlike most other ancient civilizations, where signs of warfare, conquest, and violence are seen as inevitable, the Indus civilization appears to have been strikingly peaceful. To this day, archaeologists have found no evidence of large-scale warfare, military fortifications, or weapons in their ruins. There are no power monuments, no massive temples to war gods, no grand royal tombs. Everything points to a relatively equal, stable, and harmonious society. Their architectural remains focus on everyday life, not on displays of power or coercive religious control. Even their seals, small carved tablets featuring animal symbols used in trade, carry no indications of violence. Instead, they emphasize symbolism and commerce. This has led many scholars to wonder, was this one of the rare civilizations to achieve prosperity without war? Although the Indus script remains undeciphered, The artifacts left behind, from finely crafted pottery and jewelry to precision measuring tools, indicate a rich cultural and economic life. Archaeological evidence shows that the Indus civilization had a widespread trade network exchanging goods with Mesopotamia, Central Asia, and coastal regions of the Arabian Peninsula. They had seaports, merchant ships, and a variety of products, from metals and semi-precious stones to grains and textiles. Some cities like Lothal even had ancient dockyards and canal systems, proof that they were not solely reliant on agriculture but also had a strong maritime economic mindset. Perhaps what makes the Indus Valley civilization so haunting and difficult to understand is not what they built, but how they vanished suddenly, silently, with no trace of violence or bloody collapse. Between 1900 BCE and 1300 BCE, once prosperous cities like Mohenjo-Daro, Harappa, and Dholavira began to decline rapidly. Populations dropped, trade activities stalled, construction projects shrank, and eventually, the entire civilization seemed to fade from the map of history. There is no evidence of invasion from outside, no signs of war, massacres, or widespread destruction like those commonly seen in the fall of other ancient civilizations. The cities of the Indus were not burned, nor do we see ruins that indicate last-ditch defenses or desperate battles. They were simply abandoned, as if their inhabitants gradually walked away in silence. Researchers have proposed several theories to explain this strange collapse: climate change and vanishing rivers. One of the most cited reasons is prolonged climate change, leading to a sharp decline in water availability, especially the case of the Ghaggar-Hakra River, believed by some to be the sacred Saraswati of ancient texts, which either dried up or changed course due to tectonic activity. For a society heavily reliant on irrigation and agriculture, the loss of water meant their cities could no longer sustain life. Repeated flooding and environmental instability. Mohenjo-Daro, one of the largest Indus cities, shows strong archaeological evidence of multiple episodes of flooding with layers of silt piled upon one another. These recurring floods not only damaged infrastructure but likely caused fatigue among the population, eroding their will and ability to rebuild. Internal decline and lack of centralized governance. The absence of kings or a clear ruling class, which may have been a strength in times of peace, could have become a critical weakness in the face of widespread crisis. Without centralized coordination, the society may have struggled to respond effectively to environmental, economic, or migratory pressures. Gradual migration eastward, paving the way for the Vedic civilization. Some scholars believe that instead of a violent collapse, the people of Indus withdrew in an orderly manner. They gradually abandoned their cities along the Indus River and migrated eastward toward the Ganges Plains, where the environment was more stable. These migrating communities may have eventually laid the foundations for the post-Indus Vedic civilization. Because there is no evidence of war or visible catastrophe, the end of the Indus Valley civilization has often been described as a silent death of a great civilization, one that had achieved astonishing levels of technological and social advancement, but ultimately could not overcome the forces of nature and the inherent fragility of its social structure. Today, what remains of the Indus civilization, burnt bricks, trade seals, drainage systems, and artisanal tools, continues to be uncovered and studied. And even though we still don't fully understand them, the modern world remains in awe of their precision, logic, and ability to organize a peaceful, thriving society. The Indus reminds us that civilization does not require conquest, that progress can be built on order, cooperation, and harmony with nature, and that even the most advanced societies can collapse if they fail to adapt to environmental change.